Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1169 of the War News stream. And it's good to see you all once again, and we have very big news to cover again tonight. We are seeing what appears to be major explosions and missile attacks near Punjab in India. We're also seeing Russia cancel flights in Moscow due to drone attacks, and we're also seeing Ukraine launch major attacks on Victory Day parade celebrations and early preparations for the major parade coming up. And it's good to see you all once again.
And, of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we have been able to hear that significant military action has still been conducted between the Republic of India and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan today, as major armed action has been occurring on the ground in the area of Jammu and Kashmir, and the first Indian and Pakistani fatalities of the conflict have been confirmed on both sides of the ground forces. Meanwhile, Indian Air Force activity has been high in the Jammu and Kashmir region, as the Islamic Republic of Pakistan has apparently fired missiles into the area of the Punjab province of northwestern India, according to video and picture evidence. As the fog of war began to clear over the night, we were able to confirm that the Republic of India, within the course of the first hour and a half of the conflict, was confirmed to have lost 3 aircraft and 1 drone. We were able to confirm that the Republic of India has lost a Rafale fighter jet, and that is correct, it is pronounced Rafale, an Su-30 MKI, and a MiG-29 aircraft in the course of the first hour and a half. The Islamic Republic of Pakistan stated that it was the longest dogfight in modern air war history, as a 1-hour dogfight, or largely a loose term of dogfight, was engaged between hundreds of Pakistani and Indian aircraft, with the final losses resulting in around 3 Indian aircraft being shot down and 1 drone in Jammu and Kashmir being down through electronic warfare measures. Meanwhile, we have also been able to hear that both sides are continuing to pledge further action, as the Republic of India's government has stated that Operation Sindoor has just begun, and there will be further missile strikes and precision precision airstrikes conducted on Pakistan in later phases of the conflict. We have also been able to hear that the Islamic Republic of Pakistan has vowed to avenge the dead that were killed yesterday at the opening of Operation Sindoor, and have declared that any loss of blood on their side will be met with a loss of blood on India's side. We have also been able to hear, as a side note, that in the capital of Kabul, inside of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, Afghanistan has been a voice of calm. Interesting enough, the country run by the Taliban is asking for Pakistan and India to calm it down because they're destabilizing the region. Who would have ever thought? Nevertheless, we also were able to hear some major news out of the area of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, as they did launch a short-range ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan today from their own territory. We have also been able to hear that the People's Republic of China is once again reiterating that reunification between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China is unstoppable and inevitable, according to Xi Jinping, who is currently inside of Moscow as of today, as they continued their fiery rhetoric against the island nation. Meanwhile, inside of Ukraine, or largely inside the Russian-Ukraine war, major drone attacks by the state of Ukraine have completely shut down Moscow airspace over the course of the entire day, with major airports such as the Pushkin and Domodedovo airports being entirely closed for the past 14 hours, as Ukrainian drones have flown over, landed, and impacted targets throughout the entirety of the Moscow area. Simultaneously, foreign leaders such as Xi Jinping and Vučić of Serbia have arrived at this time today, and we were also able to hear that a strategic partnership was entered between the socialist leader Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela and that of Vladimir Putin in the Russian Federation. We have also been able to get information from the Ukrainian front lines that the Ukrainian armed forces have encircled the small Russian city of Tetkino near to the area of the Kursk border, while offensives to the farther east, near to the town of Novi Put, have been going somewhat more difficult, and we have been able to confirm that there has been significant Ukrainian losses in that front, and it appears that at least in that direction of the new offensive, things may not be going too well. However, Ukrainian armed forces are still conducting offensives in the area of Toretsk and defensives in Pokrovsk, as the Ukrainian offensive has finally fizzled out and the Ukrainians are back on the defensive near to the city of Pokrovsk, once again attempting to stop Russian attacks in this direction and also to inflict high casualties on the Russian Federation forces on the more so stagnant southern front in Zaporizhia. We have also a little bit of additional news before I get on into the whole we have a lot of news today deal. There's actually a little bit more, but wait, there's more, in the words of Billy Mays. We also were able to hear that the United States and China are soon to be discussing the ongoing trade war. We have been able to hear that apparently the United States of America has requested, actually both sides are saying that the other requested to talk about the current trade situation, possibly showing that both of them did, and we have been able to hear that once again they're going into these possible talks with hardline stances, and we have also been able to hear that U.S. foreign policy on the Russian Federation has shifted, as the Vice President today and one of the chief envoys of the United States has openly stated that the path to peace and its roadblocks are not found in Ukraine and through the government of Volodymyr Zelensky, but as a matter of fact, they're actually found inside the Russian Federation and are largely roadblocks set by Putin himself. Nevertheless, we have a massive amount of news to cover today. Today's news is just wildly massive. We actually have about, I think, 50 or so independent news bulletins. One of the one of the busiest days in news coverage that we have had that is not an emergency stream like yesterday. Nevertheless, we are going to be trying to get y'all through as much of the news as we can. I do want y'all to keep in mind, however, that tonight's news segment is going to be quite a lengthy one. It's most likely going to be about 2 hours long or so, because we have to cover the entirety of the Indian conflict, all of the other international developments. By the way, we completely axed the Middle East segment today. There were ongoing developments there between the United States, the Houthis, and Israel, as well as Iran, and there were multiple statements made by the U.S. government, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Houthis, and Israel today involving all of the situations down there. But considering the importance of the news coming out of India, Ukraine, and our other larger stories throughout the day, we decided to remove that segment for time reasons. However, you can find all of the information and news that we were going to cover on our Twitter. The link is in the description below to that, and if you need to see the Middle East news because you are interested in it, you can go to our Twitter at this time and check it out for yourself. Sadly, we will not have time to be able to cover that area on the news tonight. Nevertheless, I think I can get the picture because I had to cut out a news segment. Tonight's news is absolutely massive, and moving us on into the area of the Republic of India and the Islamic Islamic Republic of Pakistan. And following up on the information that we were getting yesterday, I'm giving you all follow-ups right now on what we have been able to hear. Things did not go well for the Republic of India's Air Force last night, or the Indian Air Force, as it is officially called. We have been able to hear that India has been confirmed, both by Indian state television and by Pakistani reports, to have lost 3 fixed-wing aircraft over the course of the first hour and a half of the beginning of major hostilities. We were able to hear that 3 different aircraft were lost: a Rafale fighter jet, a Su-30 MKI, as well as a MiG-29, all of Republic of India Air Force origins. We have been able to see some video and picture evidence actually showing an aircraft being shot down over the Indian city of Bathinda, which we can see in this clip right here, and we can see that apparently an aircraft got hit pretty significantly, at least in this clip at the very beginning of it, and appears to be spiraling out of the sky as a fireball. We're not entirely sure if the pilot was able to eject, but it is assumed at this time this is actually footage of the Rafale being hit and going down. We can see the debris of the aircraft falling. We can also see a larger explosion on the ground as the fuselage is now impacted with the surface. And we now see video footage coming in later showing the burning debris of the aircraft after it is crash landed onto the ground. We can also see, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it looks a lot like a nose cone, possibly of a Rafale, but this certainly would not be the nose cone of an Su-30 MKI or that of a MiG-29. So this is largely leading us to believe that these are the components and parts of the downed Rafale that was shot down. Also, by the way, folks, really quickly, I do want to point out that some people have been trying to mention the differences in the names. How do you pronounce it? Do you pronounce it Rafale, Rafale, or Raphael? The answer is that it's not Raphael. Raphael was an artist. That's literally just not how you pronounce the name. It's either Rafale or Rafale, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Rafale, or Rafale, is more so the French pronunciation. The American pronunciation is Rafale. I usually try and go with the actual indigenous name of the weapon system that which country it comes from. So for the reasons of this show, we're going to be calling it a Rafale and not a Rafale. But we can see here in the clip the debris of what appears to be the downed Rafale.
It's just hard to believe that a Rafale was actually shot down like that, because isn't that the first known time that one has ever been shot down?
It is actually the first time. The French actually did announce that a Rafale had been lost last night in the process of being shot down by the Pakistani air defense. And they're actually trying to investigate at this moment what has really happened to lead to the loss of the aircraft. And there are a couple of different things that we could see. Also, really quickly, someone in the chat right now is going off saying it was a JF-17. That is incorrect. This footage is actually coming from Bathinda inside of India, and at no given moment, at any given point in the air battle last night, did any country's aircraft actually cross the border of the other. Considering that Bathinda is around 70 miles inside of the Republic of India, it is absolutely impossible that this is a JF-17. This is an Indian aircraft that was shot down. Well, you see them here showing the debris field on the ground. We see them continuing to observe the debris. A large crowd is built up around the burning pyre.
Also, it's wild how literally the town gathered around this fallen fighter jet to start staring at it. Everybody just gathered around like it was like a picnic or something.
Yeah, you know, it's a little bit weird. Another thing that's weird, Matthew, is that nobody has actually told us if the pilot's alive. We have not heard of the fate of the pilot of this aircraft, any of the 3 Indian aircraft, the entire day. Like, nobody has come out and said that they were able to successfully eject and they're alive. The Indians have confirmed that 3 aircraft were lost last night, a Rafale, a Su-30, and a MiG-29. But beyond that, we were not able to ever hear any information about the fate of the pilots. So while all these people are crowding around this Rafale that has been shot down, we don't know where the pilot is. He may be in the wreckage, or he may have ejected and landed somewhere else via parachute. We're not entirely sure. Also, this fire is most likely exuding a large amount of toxic fumes, which is something else that I don't think a lot of people are really thinking about when they're getting this close to the fire. We see this guy panning around showing the crowd, and then showing whatever that is. I think that's a Gorgon. I'm not entirely sure. Have no clue. But nevertheless, we were able to also see some daytime pictures as well, confirming the tail section of a Rafale had been found. This appears to be the actual first Rafale that was ever given to the Republic of India from their order that was delivered to the Dassault company, or the Dassault concern, which produced the Rafale as a multi-company sort of a front, because the thing is produced entirely by France, but through a large amount of avionics companies. Dassault's the one that does the final assembly, putting everything into the fuselage, and they're also the ones that build the fuselage, but a lot of the internal components, the engines, avionics, and such, as well as the computer systems and radar, are manufactured by other French companies. Nevertheless, it is entirely clear at this point that the first Rafale has been lost in history. We were also able to get a report from the French government confirming that the Rafale had been lost, as CNN reports that a high-ranking French intelligence officer says that one Rafale fighter jet operated by the Indian Air Force was down by Pakistan, making it the first loss of the aircraft in combat service since it entered into service with any country in 2001. And that country that
it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. It's like, would this thing never have been shot down over like at least 20 plus years? Then why all of a sudden now are they getting shot down like this? It makes you wonder if the Indian pilots are incompetent, or maybe with this being, I guess you could say, maybe a good response by Pakistan. Maybe Pakistan is just that good of a shot that they were able to take it down. But, you know, with that many being taken out in one night, that's kind of crazy.
It is pretty crazy to see. It's actually kind of wild. And I've seen some people trying to say things, certain things like the Rafale is trash, or, you know, the French aircraft sunk. But I think a lot of people are ignoring that an Su-30 MKI and a MiG-29 were also shot down last night as well, all of them within about the same time frame. And that is something that's a little bit interesting here, because it isn't really showing a failing of a specific aircraft. It may generally be showing a failing of an entire Air Force as a whole, and how their air doctrine was actually executed in the skies and how it ended up turning out. We also were able to hear, at least according to the Pakistani government, that the longest dogfight in modern history had just occurred. And to read you all this, and I'll explain that this is a little bit more of a stretch than usual, according to Pakistani security officials who spoke to CNN, last night's aerial dogfight between the Indian and Pakistani air forces, which Pakistan officials claim resulted in the downing of at least 5 Indian fighter jets. We've only been able to confirm 3. Was one of the largest and longest in recent aviation history, involving a total of 125 fighter jets battling for over an hour in the skies above the border regions of India and Pakistan. During the battle, neither country's aircraft are said to have entered the other's airspace, with air-to-air missile exchanges happening at distance sometimes greater than 160 kilometers. And that's kind of the problem that I had here with the wordage, is that dogfight makes you believe that it's like Top Gun, where Tom Cruise is, you know, whipping the F-14 right around another aircraft and trying to get the nose on so that way he can gun them down. This is more so just an aerial engagement, not a dogfight. A dogfight is a very specific thing where 2 aircraft are actually within visual range of each other, and our eyes are using Fox 3s, which are close-range air-to-air missiles, or their guns on board the aircraft to be able to try and shoot the other down. Firing air-to-air missiles at each other at a range of 160 kilometers is literally at the very reach of an aircraft's longest-range missiles, which most likely are the Fox 2s that would be on board. This means that this wasn't really a dogfight. This was more so just a large aerial engagement, but nevertheless, it is one that, at least from what we're hearing from the Pakistanis, was quite significant. Considering that we have not been able to confirm the downing of a JF-17 Thunder yet by the Indians on the Pakistani Air Force, right now the only losses that we have been able to confirm are the loss of a Rafale and Su-30 MKI, as well as a MiG-29, meaning that in this large air skirmish that supposedly happened last night, the only country that actually suffered any aerial losses was that of the Republic of India, meaning that they actually ended up coming out a minor defeat in that aerial engagement that occurred over the course of that night. Nevertheless, a lot of people have been throwing in their opinions and statements about the Indian government confirming the 3 fighter jets crashed during last night's attack, with the cause being relatively unknown at this moment, but there's a general idea that a lot of people are having about what actually led to their loss. And a lot of people are saying that it was downed by Pakistan. all of these aircraft were most likely shot down either by Pakistani aircraft or Pakistani air defense. Others are saying that they're unsure. Some are saying that they crashed due to incompetence, and a very small group of people are saying that it may be an entirely different reason. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so 73% of the audience said they were shot down by Pakistan, while only 11% said they crashed due to pilot incompetence, and 14% said unsure, undecided, or other. And I'm pretty sure, I'm actually with the 72%, I'm pretty sure they were shot down by Pakistan. There were a lot of missiles flying through the air last night, and I have a feeling that these pilots of the Indian Air Force are not that well trained based on what we saw last night, and it looks like that was the reason why they lost so many jets. There is one other possibility, though, with Pakistan having the backing of China, and China said that they want to stand behind them at all costs. It is possible that China, with their very good surveillance capabilities and also intel capabilities, might have been feeding intelligence to Pakistan to target these different aircraft. That could have been a possibility as well that many people probably haven't considered. But indeed, it was a major failure by the Indian Air Force last night. I was kind of shocked at that, actually, because we really weren't sure of the combat capabilities in real life of either country. But we found out last night that India appears to have a bit of a deficit when it comes to their Air Force, at least on the first opening day. So I'm with the majority. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be with the majority as well. They were shot down by the Pakistani Air Force or the Ground Air Defense Forces, because it is quite clear at this point that there is absolutely no fault to be had in the Rafale that would have led to the loss due to the aircraft being a low performer. The Rafale has had a large amount of combat engagements that it has been involved in throughout the entirety of the war of the world through its pretty lengthy service of nearly 24 years, which really isn't that long in military terms. Aircraft like the F-15 and the F-16 have technically been in service for about 50 years at this point. But beyond that, it has never been shot down in any aerial engagement, or for that matter, in any campaign or mission that a Rafale has been sent into, because generally an aircraft is well understood to be as good as its pilot. And if the pilots are not that good, the aircraft is going to get shot down, no matter how good the aircraft's abilities are. Considering that the Rafale was joined by an Su-30 MKI, which is a fairly advanced version of the Su-27 family of aircraft, as well as a MiG-29, is leading us to believe that the Republic of India either has poorly trained pilots or absolutely obsolete air doctrine that they are currently using at this point. Because one thing I will say is that French aircraft are wildly good. French aircraft are insanely good, as a matter of fact. The Rafale is usually considered to be on par or better than the Eurofighter Typhoon, which is considered to be an absolute masterpiece that was produced by a multinational effort of the UK, Germany, and Italy. France was able to produce single-handedly an aircraft of its own of a very advanced fourth generational capability. A lot of people say that it's fourth plus generational capabilities, nearly getting on into a fifth generation aircraft, and it has already shown many times over than it needs to that it is a wildly competent aircraft. So for the fact that India lost one, it has to show that there was an absolute poor performance on the Indian Air Force's part to lose the aircraft. Either the pilot may have tried to conduct evasive maneuvers, bled so much energy that he really could not evade or keep up any kind of high speed and became a sitting target for the missile to hit. He may have gotten so close to the ground air defense battery in Pakistan that there was really no way to evade the missile successfully, and the missile was guaranteed to hit. There may also be a fact that there may be a lack of maintenance on board the aircraft, such as the RWR system possibly not working correctly, which may have led to the pilot not even knowing that there was an air-to-air missile fired in his direction, which would have led to him being shot down. There is really absolutely no way to know the exact cause of this moment, and we do know that the French companies involved in producing the Rafale are currently investigating this at the moment and trying to figure out exactly what led to the loss of the aircraft, but I would have to say that it certainly cannot be the fault of the Rafale aircraft itself or the Dassault company. Another thing
I would say so as well. Isn't it shocking? Like, honestly, last night when we were covering this, we were very much in doubt about the 5 aircraft being shot down, or the claim by Pakistan that they shot down 5 of them. It was so unbelievable and so far-fetched that we actually said we're going to just hold off and not say anything about it and move on because it sounds very, very unreliable. But it turns out that actually ends up being basically true, give or take 1 jet or so, and also add a drone to the mix as well. That's just an insane loss on an opening day for a country like India, which is vying to be a pretty large powerhouse of their own economically and also presumably, at least militarily in some respect. For them to lose that bad on an opening day, that's very shocking to me.
Yeah, it's a really shocking thing, actually. A pretty crazy thing, as a matter of fact, to hear that many aircraft were lost and have been confirmed to be lost. And not only that, we also were able to see, at least in some additional news, that the Indian Air Force is still heavily active over the area of Jammu and Kashmir, at least at this moment, because heavy Indian Air Force jet activity was reported over Jammu and Kashmir about 12 hours ago today. And so we do know that the Indian Air Force is still airborne. We have not gotten any confirmed losses against those three that were in the first hour and a half, but nevertheless, it is really starting to cast a shadow onto the abilities of the Republic of India's Air Force, because it's not really known how well off they are. Considering that we have not been able to confirm a single loss at this point from the Pakistani Air Force, we still have a floating rumor out there that a JF-17 was shot down last night, but once again, we have gotten no footage of burning debris or a geolocation on any wreckage field at this point, so it's pretty dubious to say that it's been shot down yet, because we do work off of video and picture evidence, and until we are able to prove that it physically has been shot down and lost, then we really aren't able to do much with saying that a JF-17 was actually lost. And we really don't work off of the idea that we're trying to be fair on this channel and go, well, you know, India lost a lot, so we're just going to say without any proof that Pakistan lost a JF-17. We don't really know if Pakistan has lost a single aircraft at this point, which may be showing that India's Air Force did terribly last night, which is a little bit concerning, because that kind of makes you wonder how the rest of the war would go, say, on the ground or at sea, if the Pakistani and Indian navies were to engage in battle with each other, or when the ground forces actually start to conduct major combined arms actions, which we haven't really seen just yet. How well is the Indian Army going to perform if the Air Force is already doing this badly? That's a pretty big question for us, at least at this moment, because at this point, the Indian Air Force has done pretty badly. And I know that there's going to be a whole bunch of Indian folks in the chat tonight. I've already seen them coming in. And I don't know what it is between India and Pakistan, but they cannot live in reality whatsoever. Like both sides are saying that they are winning and no one's even died in their country. And they're just like slaughtering the other till day and night, which is not the reality. We're not trying to work off of, feelings here on the channel. We're working off of hardcore facts and information that we're able to find, and this is the hardcore facts and information that we have. We are able to confirm that 3 Indian aircraft have been shot down, and not a single Pakistani aircraft has been shot down in undeniable, confirmed picture and video evidence. So at this moment, that's what we have right now. So,
also, by the way, someone in the chat here, and also I do agree, like there's been a ton of really obnoxious bots hopping in tonight that are mainly from, it appears to be tonight, from the Indian side. They're all saying that they did not get any of their fighter jets shot down, even though their government acknowledged that at least 3 of them got shot down. But someone has said in the live chat, they said India was shocked last night and they panicked a bit, and that's why they lost a few jets. The only problem is India is the one who launched the attack on Pakistan. So they weren't shocked at all. They were the ones doing the attacking. And then Pakistan responded and shot down a ton of their jets. So it sounds to me like the underdog, who in this situation appeared to be Pakistan, who was getting attacked by India. It looks like they sort of turned the tables a bit using either Chinese intel or simply having better targeting capabilities. And they sort of turned the tables a bit last night.
Yeah, also another thing that I have to say is that this has been one of the funniest claims I've seen by the Indian bots tonight. Because the Indian bots are the ones that are the angriest against us right now. Is that the footage of an aircraft being shot down over Bathinda wasn't from last night. It was from like September or October of 2024. Which, keep in mind, folks, there wasn't an ongoing war in September of 2024 between the two sides. So even if that was true, how do you explain an aircraft getting its shit rocked over Bathinda by an air-to-air missile and blowing up? Like, that doesn't even make any sense if that was the debunking to the footage that we have over Bathinda, because no aircraft was shot down over Bathinda at all last year. If it was, we would have covered it here on this channel, and it wasn't. So, that's something else interesting to work off of there. A little food for thought. But nevertheless, moving on from that, we do have a lot more news to cover in between the two sides. Now, getting us on up into what happened today, we also were able to hear that the Taliban, which is currently running the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, called for restraint. You just wouldn't believe this kind of stuff unless if it actually happened. But the Taliban is calling on India and Pakistan to exercise restraint and start dialogue, stressing the importance of regional stability. And that's coming from the people who are like the masters of maintaining regional instability. They're now actually asking for them to calm it down because it's getting that bad. So, that's giving everyone a little bit of an idea of how bad this thing is going, is that even the Taliban now are asking for them to calm it down a little bit and reconsider what's going on. So Yeah, an interesting timeline that we live in. But moving on from that and on into the rest of the developments that we were getting up until today, we were able to get a rough current casualty count, as we were able to hear that the casualties, both sides included, have exceeded 150. So far, we were able to confirm that 21 Pakistanis are dead, and 12 Indians are also dead as well from the ongoing conflict in this war right now, meaning that while the financial losses to the Republic of India were wildly high last night, it doesn't really appear that that has resulted in insanely high casualties, at least from the information and reports that we're getting at this moment. Meanwhile, we have also been able to hear that at least earlier on in the day, there were heavy firefights still going on at the line of control, or the LOC, between India and Pakistan, and one Indian soldier was confirmed killed, as India was able to state that one of their soldiers did die around the line of control inside of the area of Jammu and Kashmir. Meanwhile, rhetoric and statements from the Islamic Republic of Pakistan's government have been coming out in full form today. Before those statements came out, though, we were able to see in the early morning hours that Islamabad was already testing out their air raid sirens, as they are expecting future air attacks, not only across Pakistan, but directly within the capital, which we can hear in this clip right here. We can also hear someone like laying bricks in the background.
Oh no, that's the rock siren. They also have that as a backup. If the tornado sirens don't work, the guy with the rock banging on the other rock, they pick up the slack.
Oh, well, that's actually a great thing that they have redundant systems. Nevertheless, we also were able to hear that the Pakistani stated, oh, actually, that's a little bit later. We were able to hear that the Pakistani government stated that every drop of blood that has been shed will be avenged, meaning that they are quite clearly going to be continuing on hostile actions against India here in the near future. We were also able to see the statement from the Pakistani Prime Minister, who his name is Sharif. Unfortunately, I do not know his first name. I think it's like... we'll not go with his first name. This is his last name, Sharif. And here's the statement right here.
Yes, that we will be, that every drop of their blood that has been shed, we are going to make them accountable.
So it appears that now the Prime Minister of Pakistan is saying that they will find, track, and banish the Indians for what they did on the first phase of Operation Sindoor. We have also been able to hear from the Indian government that Operation Sindoor has only just begun, and they're actually going to be conducting multiple phases of the operation, which will involve multiple airstrikes and missile strikes into the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. We have also been able to hear that the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, which is a mouthful, but we're going to keep doing it anyways, stated that this is paramount to war. According to the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, the Indian attack on our country is a declaration of war, meaning that they are now treating it as an official state of war between Pakistan and India. We have also been able to hear in some additional news, finally getting us up into the present day, that it appears that missiles were sighted over the Punjab region. And once again, I want to make this clear that it appears that they were sighted. Video and picture evidence is pretty undeniable, but the amount of statements that have been made are quite truly getting into the area of just a misinformation campaign by everyone involved. We have heard that apparently India fired its own missiles over a populated area to test their precious air defense missiles on their own missiles, which makes no sense. We have also heard that Pakistan has denied firing these missiles, so we have absolutely no clue whose missiles these are or anything. And also, by the way, I do have to explain to our Indian viewers, because they've been like seething today all day over the fact that an aircraft or two were shot down, is that this is not Bollywood. So like we don't work in like the Tom and Jerry kind of physics and cartoon world. Like that doesn't actually happen in real life. India, highly unlikely that they fired off these missiles. That wouldn't really make any sense at all, because absolutely nobody tests their air defense systems by firing their own missiles into the sky so that way they can shoot down their own missiles over a populated area of their country and possibly have falling debris maim and kill innocent bystanders on the ground. So highly unlikely, unless if it was Bollywood, which it isn't, we're living in the real world here, that these missiles were fired by India. But nevertheless, we were able to see the missiles flying over the Punjab area, which we could see air defense firing right here at least. And that's the end of the clip right there. And moving on from that and into our next clip, we also were able to hear more missile sightings were seen around the area of Amritsar in the Indian Punjab province. Amritsar is actually a fairly large city near to the Pakistan-India border, meaning that it's highly likely that these missiles may have been fired directly from Pakistan into the area of the city of Amritsar, which we can see in this clip right here. When you see some sort of a bright light emanating from over the skyline in the distance. In the next clip, we can also see more air defense. We can also hear what sounds to be the Indian version of Super Mario. Whoa, 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 you know, something like that.
Did you hear that right in the middle? Go back for a second. Go back to the middle of that. I gotta rehear that one more time.
Oh my god, this video is tragic.
Oh my god, bro, excuse me.
Dude, the spirit of hot dog man took him over from thousands of miles away. That video was interesting. We also were able to see another clip right here as well. So it does appear that, at least in these clips, there is some sort of missile activity going on over Amritsar right now. Although, once again, I do want to make it clear, this story is one of the most confusing ones we've had so far, because there is disinformation on so many levels, it's really hard to even track the story, because Pakistan stated that they didn't fire any missiles over the area of Punjab. And Pakistan is denying involvement in the recent alleged missile strike. If true, it can mean all projectiles seen were likely Indian air defense missiles, suggesting a possible mock drill, which you really don't conduct mock drills in the middle of an actual war. You usually save those missiles, because missiles are pretty expensive and fairly precious, so it's a little bit unlikely that India is firing off their own missiles and just wasting them in the middle of an actual conventional war that has now broken out in between the two sides. So we were believing that something else was going on, but what exactly it was, we're entirely unsure, because we have really no clear evidence or a story or a picture at this moment beyond the fact that there were missiles flying and there was active air defense, and that's about it. So absolutely no clue. But beyond that, we were able to hear from folks that heavy fighting is still escalating between India and Pakistan, and are full-scale ground invasions coming. And it appears that the decent majority of people are believing that that's going to be an imminent event at this point. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so it looks like a very slim majority, about 52% said yes, it's imminent that full-scale ground invasions are coming soon between India and Pakistan, while 25% said it's a 50-50 chance, and 15% said no, it is not imminent right now. And with so many tanks and ground pieces of equipment and soldiers being deployed literally right on the border of those two countries, I would say the odds of something like this happening is pretty high right now. Now, once again, to say it's imminent as in it's going to happen for certain, that's hard to say. But with this much equipment there, it's kind of hard not to go through with some type of invasion from either the Indian side or the Pakistani side. And of course, today, we did see the Pakistani tanks rolling straight toward the Indian border. So it looks like they're preparing for it at least, a very strong likelihood of it. But to say it's 100%, I really couldn't go that far. So I'm going to be with the 24%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I have to say that in my honest opinion, I would have to be with the 53% as well. I would believe that it is an imminent event at this point, because both sides will have to be conducting some sort of a ground, well, really not both sides, really just Pakistan. India could justify ground offensives, but it would be a little bit of a stretch. But Pakistan has to justify offensive ground operations into the region of Jammu and Kashmir to be able to take control of the dams, which are currently holding back a significant amount of water from entering Pakistan, and reopen the flow of water back into their country. They simply can't miss those and open them that way, as the floodwaters could end up killing tens of thousands of people downstream and causing an unbelievable amount of damage in dollars, at least in the amount of destruction of property and equipment. So for that reason, they have to physically take these dams and open the floodgates to get the flow of water to return. And that means that Pakistan will have to enter some kind of a major offensive inside the mountain regions, which is one of the most difficult areas that they could actually fight in, at least at this moment. And I would have to say that is inevitable, a certainty. if we can count on anything, we can count on if this keeps going, Pakistan will have to conduct an offensive into India to be able to try and reopen those dams. Hey, you know something, folks? I actually just noticed that Polygon is right here. I actually just saw it. I forgot where it was, and I zoomed in, and I was like, oh, maybe I should show this to y'all. But Polygon, or Polygram, depending on how you want to pronounce it, because I've seen it spelled two different ways, is actually a pretty interesting area. In India, this is considered to be the Switzerland of India for the large part, inside the Himalayas. It's considered a pretty big tourist destination for Indians trying to go on holiday. So that was kind of why the attack was so jarring and so upsetting to the Indian public, is because it was pretty much like attacking, say, Disney World or something similar, at least for the Republic of India. Beyond that, however, that's what I would believe at this point about future ground offensives. Cannot really speak to the entirety of offensives in the plains near Punjab and Rajasthan, but I can speak that, to the fact that the Pakistanis have to conduct an offensive, meaning if this keeps up, a Pakistani offensive is inevitable. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we are actually going to be moving on out of the Indian news segment today and on into some other news that we were also able to hear today, moving us on over into East Asia. Moving on over into East Asia, we were able to hear that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has launched a ballistic missile towards the East Sea, according to South Korea's JCS. I had to make sure that I got that correct right there. But nevertheless, we were able to hear that they fired it towards the East Sea, which is also the Sea of Japan. The Koreans don't like calling it the Sea of Japan for some reasons in between how the Japanese treated the Koreans when they were under Japanese occupation, so they call it the East Sea. But the North Koreans did fire a missile into that area today, once again starting to do their little provocative actions as usual. Nothing really new there, but once again, still provocative by the North Koreans. Meanwhile, we've been able to hear of even larger provocative actions or statements coming from the People's Republic of China once again onto the Republic of China on the island of Taiwan. We were able to hear that Xi Jinping stated today that Taiwan's reunification with China is both inevitable and unstoppable. Winnie the Pooh is going on a warpath, folks. Winnie the Pooh is about to get real. It appears that he is continuously ramping up the rhetoric on an official level that the People's Republic of China is going to forcefully reunify in one way or another the Republic of China with the communist mainland, which is going to still be a pretty difficult task for them, at least at this moment, unless they were to try and conduct just a soft blockade and an air campaign against Taiwan. But I believe at this point it's become quite clear throughout the entirety of the world that air campaigns really don't do anything but piss people off, and really doesn't do the kind of damage that people would believe it does. So the Chinese may actually be wanting to wait and sit back and wait until they are actually able to conduct an amphibious invasion of the island, which is still about 2 years away, for them to be able to successfully actually take the island and force its reunification with the mainland. That might be a high possibility that is what the Chinese are looking for going into the future, but for now, their rhetoric is once again getting fairly hostile. Meanwhile, speaking of hostile rhetoric against a certain country, we have actually been able to hear that there's been almost a 180-degree change in the United States about the ideas or mindsets about the Russian Federation, at least within the U.S. administration. Many people have been able to know and here for a while that the U.S. administration has seemed to try and paint, at least in the beginning of their tenure, that the Russian Federation is actually a somewhat reasonable country, or at least a country that we could be friends with. And why in the world would we ever be at odds with Russia? We like the Russians, and the Russians really respect America, unlike all of these other bastards in the world that are military allies with us and also economic partners. That just doesn't matter. Russia has always been at our throats and wanting to kill everyone in America, and that means that they respect us greatly. It appears that after the failed negotiation attempts, which concluded about 2 weeks ago, the vice president has apparently gone on a complete 180. I'd like to say that he has to be a certain kind of a puppet from Jeff Dunham, because I don't know who's making him say whatever, but it's honestly gone a complete 180 nearly, because we've been able to hear this directly from the vice president's mouth today. We believe the Russians are asking for too much. There's a wide gap between where the Ukrainians and the Russians stand. So now it's not Zelensky.
But really it's a wide gap between where the United States and Russia stands, really, because the talks ended between the United States and Putin. They didn't end between Ukraine and Russia because they really never had talks to begin with. So it's a whole rephrasing of the whole situation. In other words, Putin did not do what they asked him to do, which is very predictable.
It's very predictable, and it's pretty interesting to see that now our opinions are starting to change, at least in the administration here in the United States, on the Russian Federation, because this is quite literally what we have been saying on the channel since day one of the current administration and the last administration. There is no way to negotiate with the Russians because the only way that they can achieve anything is through an absolute victory. The Russians love peace if they're winning, and they hate peace if they're losing, which means that it has nothing to do with peace, and it has to do with victory and achieving their strategic interests, which are specifically and inherently against ours, Europe's, and Ukraine's. And with that in mind, it appears that a decent little shift is starting to happen in the U.S. administration against the Russians. And I think they're going to start feeling the ire of the change of the mindset in America here fairly soon. But we also were able to hear that apparently the United States of America and China may actually be entering into trade negotiations soon, although I would not expect much to be happening, at least at this point, on that, because we were able to get an official statement today from the Chinese Foreign Ministry, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, about future trade negotiations with the United States, which the United States says China requested, and China saying that America requested. Nevertheless, they are going to be happening, and it does appear that both sides are still going to be entering at least this round of talks with pretty strong notions and rhetoric of securing their own interests over the others. But here's the statement from the Chinese today.
近期不断地表示希望同中方进行谈判，这次的会谈是应美方的请求举行的。中方坚决反对美国滥施关税，这一立场没有任何变化。同时，我们也多次说过，中方对对话持开放态度，但任何对话都必须建立在平等、尊重、互惠的基础上。任何形式的施压胁迫，对中国都是行不通的。中方将坚定维护自身的正当利益，维护国际的公平正义。
This guy was
talking like he was programmed to say that. Like, what, is this guy AI or something?
Dude, this guy was talking like he was introducing the players to Squid Game, honestly. He was like, welcome to the Squid Game. And I was like, dude, it's like, bro, you don't have to be that calm and calculated. Honestly, man, if I had to pick in between him and the other guy who was like, screw those American pigs and long live the 1,000-year empire, I would be like, honestly, the other guy seemed like more human. This guy was literally like a machine. I've never seen anyone like that. But I guess the people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China are more android than human. But beyond that, we were able to hear that while the U.S. is going to be entering into this round of talks, it appears clear that at least by the office of the president, they're not really open to pulling back on the tariffs, at least for now, as the president did state that there is no option at this moment to potentials for pulling back on tariffs against the People's Republic of China. So we may be seeing that these first round of talks are not really successful, but I do have to say that at least on both ends of the ocean, it's becoming quite clear that this trade war is starting to cause some pretty significant economic ripples in some serious areas of both economies. It doesn't really appear that both sides would find it beneficial for this trade war to last for long, and so I'm assuming that if they're able to find a way for both of them to exit the trade war while saving face, they're most likely going to go with that, because if they do not, both sides are actually going to be facing a decent amount of economic disruption and also decay, along with a possible ending of some specific economic sectors. With that, though, we are going to be moving on from that little trade war update and on over into Europe itself, because we have had a lot of Ukraine war news and information coming out today, a massive amount as a matter of fact, and I want to make sure that we are able to get into it and tell y'all all what's going on up here in this corner of the world. But before we do that, I do want to make sure to say a huge thanks to everyone who has been watching this channel so far tonight. We've reached a peak viewership of 13.1 thousand viewers, and as a matter of fact, I get to give y'all a unbelievable thanks, because y'all continue time and time again to come here to this channel every night and watch it for your breaking news. As a matter of fact, it's actually so crazy how many people are watching this channel day in and day out that this channel is continuously in the top 100 largest live streams on YouTube in the United States pretty much every single day that we're on air. We are entirely appreciative and grateful to have so many of y'all here and watching, and if you are new to this channel, which many of y'all most likely may be, please make sure to subscribe. We just passed 351,000 subscribers just a moment ago. And we're already up to 351,200 subscribers at this moment. And so you want to join us and be here for each and every day of breaking news from around the world, which we are here 6 days a week doing this live on air, and pretty much 7 days a week on short war videos if there's enough news. Make sure to subscribe, because we make sure to not miss a single thing and to cover pretty much every major global event going on if we can. But a huge thanks to everyone so far for subscribing tonight once again. It was quite literally just yesterday we went from, I think it was 349,000 to 350, and today we're already to 351. So this channel is rocketing in size once again because of the news coverage. And a huge thanks to everyone who's been here so far and watching it and enjoying it. But before we move on into the remainder of our news tonight, I do want to make sure that we address some questions, because we have gotten a decent amount of questions in the chat, and I want to make sure that we get to a couple of them. I also want to explain to some new viewers as well about how the channel works. Our streams do not run any ads whatsoever. Our streams are ad-free. If there are ads on YouTube, they shouldn't be. We have the monetization off on quite literally every single stream, so if YouTube's running ads, we're very sorry about that, but we really don't have a lot of control if YouTube runs them or not. Nevertheless, we do not make a single dime or cent on our live streams off of AdSense viewership, and for that reason, the viewers themselves are the entire way that this channel is able to fund itself and keep itself running and keep Matthew and me in this as full-time employees, working day in and day out to cover the news for all of y'all. For that reason, when I say that we're answering questions right now, we're actually going to be addressing super chats which have been thrown in, which are helping this channel to keep on running. That is not to say that to ask a question on this channel, you have to play. This channel does not work off of a pay-to-play system. We do address live chats, but they will be addressed after every super chat has been addressed tonight, because we want to make sure to give a huge thanks and appreciation to all of those folks who are supporting our channel and helping us to keep it rolling day in and day out for everyone. So we want to make sure to put them first to give them their appreciation, thanks, and shout-outs. However, though, I do have to say that we will address live chats if a super chat comes in and asks us to address one. Then we actually will pick one early. But nevertheless, I wanted to explain that to y'all just in case y'all are thinking, wait a minute, do I have to pay to have a question answered? The answer is no. But with that, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our first super chat of the night. This one is going to go to none other than Lord Cog, who's, of course, a longtime legend of the channel and also a longtime supporter of the channel. And thank you very much, Lord Cog, for that very generous $100 donation. And he said, thank you.
And thank you for the massive support, Lord Cog, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. I gotta thank you for the massive support, and being here with us again tonight. We still have 12,000 live viewers with us at this point, and it is absolutely amazing to think that so many people are coming to this channel and choosing it to be their primary source of news. It's just absolutely insane to think that a lot of people are starting to use this channel as really their only news source from around the world, and to that I gotta thank y'all. And to you, Lord Cog, I have to thank you massively, because your support, which you didn't have to throw in, is making this channel possible for hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, pretty much every single month. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our second super chat goes to Peace with War, another longtime channel legend who puts in a $100 donation as well. And thank you very much, Peace with War, for also supporting the channel very bigly. And they said, great coverage, guys. Now, I'm personally not a fan of India, but I prefer them since Pakistan has been aiding the terrorists. And if India and Pakistan do go to war, will this become like the Ukraine war, where the United States aids India while China aids Pakistan?
Thank you for the massive support, by the way, Peace with War. And that is a very good question. I would have to say, starting off, I've been slightly sympathetic to the Indians because of U.S. strategic interest in the past on this channel. But I will be entirely honest that the showing out of people since this war has started from the Pakistani and Indian side has kind of shown me that both sides are just filled with some of the most violent, angry people that I've ever seen. I've actually never seen a virulent mob of people from both ends coming and just going at this channel straight at the jugular from the opening of a conflict ever. Like in the Israel-Iran situation, a lot of the Israelis would come in and they would ask us to see their side. Actually, as a matter of fact, at least at the beginning, even people who supported Hamas and Hezbollah were asking us to see their side and didn't go straight at the jugular immediately. And even in Ukraine and Russia and Russia has been a fairly straightforward thing. The Ukrainians have always been nice to us. We appreciate them for that. The Russians have never been nice to us, but there is a civil side to that conflict. So far, just covering for about a day or two right now, the outbreak of total war between India and Pakistan, the amount of Indian people who have come in here, when we have actually had a leaning and have openly stated on the channel, even last night, that America would have a strategic interest in supporting India, and they have come in here and gone out of their way to just try and rip the channel's credibility and also just say some of the most heinous stuff to us, is absolutely absurd, really, to be entirely honest. And it's really starting to change my view of the Republic of India as a whole, because we do have Indian viewers here that enjoy this channel and have supported, and I thank them greatly, but the large majority of Indian viewers that we've had come in here so far over the past 36 hours, that have been some of the meanest, most vile people that I've actually seen, along with the Pakistanis as well. So with that in mind, personal bias-wise, I'm not really a fan of either for that reason, because I've just never seen this in any given conflict so far. But one thing that I can say is that for U.S. strategic interests, the Republic of India is the one that we largely have to support, because if we are able to ensure that they are an ally of the United States, we pretty much get to have a major military and also possibly basing ally that would allow us to sit in the middle of the Indian Ocean, which the Chinese are pretty much attempting to control all of the coastlines of currently in East Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. So with that in mind, I would have to say that that probably would be a pretty significant thing for the United States of America to support for long-term strategic purposes. But getting back to your question, it might actually end up in a situation similar to that. I would honestly say, however, that considering that India is a larger power, and these days I believe it is one of the 5 largest economies on the planet, we probably would not support them like we've supported Ukraine, because it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. India isn't really a country that needs support, neither is Pakistan, so if they lose, it's really kind of on them. I don't really think there's any way that the U.S. could support India and actually help them out in any major way, considering that economically they have a big enough country, population and economically, that they should be able to keep this thing going entirely on their own. But I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion, and a massive shout out to you once again, Peace with War, for helping this channel to keep on running. And I also believe that at least material support at a bare minimum to address the Pakistani side from China is most likely guaranteed, because Pakistan has been a major arms purchaser of the People's Republic of China for some time. So they'll probably see that there is a decent amount of arms support by the Chinese, but I do not think that China will be entering the conventional war, because so far the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has made absolutely no statements whatsoever that are openly supporting Pakistan now that the conflict is broken out, saying that they would join the war on their side. So I think if anything, China will most likely support them with supplies, but most likely nothing else. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. A huge thanks to you so much once again, Peaceful War, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of the news.
Also, real quick, just a piece of breaking news that I'm currently getting right now through our back channels. We are getting reports of a major blast being heard in Lahore, Pakistan, and right now the cause is not yet known. We don't have any video or picture evidence showing this blast on camera, but according to eyewitnesses and people on the ground, there have been a major explosion in Lahore, Pakistan. And if you can zoom in on that spot, unfortunately, that way we see exactly where that's at. And there it is. It's sort of up near the same region where all the fighting's happening, and apparently a humongous blast somewhere within the city or around the perimeter of it. So we'll be waiting for more details on it. But unfortunately, would you like to add in?
No, unfortunately, no, because I don't know anything about it. I just heard about it. So
just wanted to check.
Yeah, I was like, man, yeah, dude, honestly, man, I was like, what do you want me to do? You want me to be like that guy in Star Trek, man, when they went down to the planet? They're like, the Klingons are here, and they like knew somehow while they were sitting in the church. They're like, how the hell do they know?
Man,
that?
I thought you were about to give us the history of Lahore, Pakistan. And also, by the way, it's spelled Lahore. The pronunciation sounds a bit weird in English, but that is the name of the Pakistani town. Also, by the way, I'm being told by one of our viewers in the live chat that apparently there's a new NOTAM alert, which is an airspace alert in Pakistan, and apparently that might be the case. We're going to check on that in just a minute and get some confirmation on it and see if I can find that out. But it looks like some escalation's happening right now over the airspace of Pakistan, according to initial reports. But with that, we're now jumping into our last super chat of the segment, which goes to Andrew Barbro, another longtime channel legend. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that $100 donation, another massive support. And he said, let's admit the truth, people suck. Let's slip the dogs of war. And really, what happened to I am my brother's keeper?
Thank you so much for the massive support, Andrew Barbaro. And people can suck sometimes. There's actually a lot of nice people out there. It's just a matter of finding them. And generally, you won't really be finding a lot of nice people in war. That's a bit of a tough one to really find out there most of the time. And especially between two countries like Pakistan and India, because I don't mean to sound like this war is on a whole other level, but Matthew and me have never seen a group of people who hate each other more than the Indians and Pakistanis so far in just 36 hours. I mean, honestly, even with Iran and Israel, and Iran will chant death to Israel and death to America in their parliament, I'm not actually seeing this level of hatred on two sides bilaterally ever. Like, there's just never really been this. There's always been some sort of a level of like an attempt to understand or persuade others. Like Indians and Pakistani people come swinging out the gates at literally anyone that they think might not be saying that, you know, that India is just the best country in the world or Pakistan is the best country in the world. I've never seen anything like that. Actually, it's brand new to me. But I would have to say in this conflict, it's probably going to be a little bit tough to find those nice people because it seems as though both governments are adamant on spilling blood, really for just the sake of spilling blood at this point. It doesn't really seem like there's any attempt to achieve any strategic objectives or war goals. It really just more so seems that they are just wanting to kill as many of the others as they can right now at the moment. So I would have to agree with that. And I don't really know what happened to I Am My Brother's Keeper. I don't really think that exists in Pakistan and India or really in Iran and Israel or really in Russia and Ukraine. But this one like out the gate is just quite literally the hatred that exists between Pakistan and India right now, just 36 hours in, is the kind of hatred that took 3 years for Russia and Ukraine to form against each other. Like, it took 3 straight years for Ukraine and Russia to be able to cultivate that amount of hatred for the other, for different reasons on both sides. India and Pakistan literally had that going into this. Like, it's just the craziest thing, in my opinion. But beyond that, I've been able to hear that we have a breaking news alert. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so it is getting spicy right now inside of Pakistan. I've gotten that confirmation right now. Apparently, Pakistan has just issued a NOTAM over Lahore, and also the airspace of Pakistan's capital city, Islamabad, is also closed until further notice after we heard reports of a very loud blast inside of the city of Lahore in Pakistan. Right now, we do not know the cause of it, but I presume it's probably some attack from India would be my guess, because they wouldn't close all the airspace if it wasn't an actual attack. So it sounds like something is going on right now. It's happening as we speak, like literally right this minute. So whatever it is, I'm sure video evidence will be coming out probably in the next 20 minutes or so we can find out exactly what has been hit or what's been attacked.
And so hopefully we will be able to see, and I got to thank you for sharing that breaking news update, Matthew, as it does appear that at this moment, a major event is happening somewhere over Lahore and Islamabad, largely the northern areas of the country, near to Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. So it appears that at this moment, from what we've been getting so far, most of the major fighting is happening in these northern regions of India and Pakistan, which also is where most of the majority of their population centers of both countries are at, because they're really the most hospitable for human life. Rajasthan, on the other hand, really isn't. It's mostly desert, and also throughout most of Pakistan, most of it's a desert, except for the area around the Indus River Valley. So with that in mind, thank you for sharing that, Matthew. And also, by the way, Matthew, another quick thing I had to add in, if you ever think that you need to throw it over to me, because I'm going to throw in a lot of additional details and information, I kind of want to put this out there a little bit early for you and everyone else. I actually don't really know a lot about the internal history of India and Pakistan. I know an internal history about a lot of different places, but India and Pakistan has never just been a strong suit of mine or an interest of mine. I'm really interested in the Middle East, East Asia, the former Soviet Union and its republics, the Warsaw Pact, Western Europe, the North Americas, and a little bit of South America as well. But I'm not really that much into anything that happens in the Indian subcontinent, because usually it's kind of status quo down there, and there's not really a lot that it's like we're having to already find out right now. It's a pretty violent kind of a thing to even get involved in it, and it's really more so rhetoric. Honestly, man, like if I could describe India and Pakistan and the hatred they have for each other is like the Republicans and Democrats here in America. It like just even touching it gets you into like this whole spurn of like violence and anger. And there's really like not a lot of logic behind either side. It's really just more so just going at each other to get each other. Like it's like oh, get their ass. Like it's like that from both sides. So I really don't know a lot about the additional details in that region like I would in others. But moving on from that, I hope we were able to get you all that breaking news update, and I also got to give you a massive support and thanks, Andrew Barbaro, once again for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it rolling. And so a massive thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and we're actually going to be moving on from this question segment and on into the remainder of the news that we have tonight, and it is something that is quite familiar to us all, which is the ongoing war in Ukraine. We were able to hear from Moscow today that a lot was going on, including a major drone attack by the state of Ukraine, which we were able to get a decent amount of video and picture evidence of. First, we were able to see some Ukrainian drones flying over the Russian town of Podolsk, which is on the southwestern side of the city of Moscow area. And we see right here, the camera is zooming in, and we can see a Liudi long-range drone flying over the area. Oh! And it's still flying. Bro, that dog. They got that dog with them. That guy said, That's the end of that clip. But we also were able to get another clip of drone hits happening near Moscow. This was actually near Novy Gorodok, which I tried to pull up, and it generally seemed like it was in the western area of Moscow. So we can see that in this clip right here. Oh, what's that? Is that a little siren? Sounds like something might have already hit. Oh my god! Oh my god! That's what we call, folks, in the meme world, deep fried and bass boosted. I'm going to turn that down, actually, because that is something...
That's what we call you need to buy new subwoofers immediately.
Dude, this is what you hear, man, when you're, like, driving around in North Birmingham sometimes and someone has their windows down and the subwoofers up. It sounds just like that sometimes. So now we can hear all of the sirens going off. And the slide whistle.
Those aftermarket cheap Russian car alarms kill me.
It would be hell to be on that street in real life with all those going off. Oh my lord. I would lose it within like 5 minutes. But beyond that, we were able to see that drone attacks were happening on Moscow right now. As a result of this, they actually shut down all of the airports around the Moscow city area today, including the Domodedovo, which is probably one of the goofiest names for an airport I've ever heard, as well as the, and let me make sure I get this correct, the Vuknovo airport as well, and also, by the way, I forgot to mention, most importantly, the Zhukovsky International Airport, and oh, we're not done yet, the Moscow Sheremetyevo Alexander Pushkin International Airport. So all of those airports have been shut down around Moscow today, including the ones even as far north as Tver. So pretty much all of the airports in the central western region of the Russian Federation were closed down today, and pretty much every single plane was diverted to the only other international airports that exist in Russia, which are at St. Petersburg, and it is specifically the Pulkovo Airport right here. Some of y'all may notice, wow, this airport looks pretty damn Spartan, and it really is, Matthew. Honestly, I would have to say that this looks to be a lot similar to the Birmingham International Airport, at least in size. It's not that much bigger, really.
This looks on par with what Aeroflot provides for the beautiful citizens of the Russian Federation. Nothing but shit.
We also have aircraft boneyard over here. Oh, actually, this freight aircraft.
That's active aircraft, bliat. Don't mistake it for junk.
We have aircraft boneyard over here, plate. We have aircraft in the bun. But beyond that, it is a. Oh yeah, those are really just aircraft, just kind of like sitting out, chilling. Whoa, look at that chilling. But beyond that, it does appear that pretty much every single aircraft in the Russian Federation that was flying to the Moscow area got re-diverted to St. Petersburg, which, by the way, let me put this out for all y'all, because this is a little bit of an interesting one. It is only a mere 400 miles away. Hey, that's kind of a bit of a distance to be diverted. But the reason why it was so far away, just to put this out there for our American viewers so that we all know how first world Russia is that was literally the only other airport that is rated to take these kinds of aircraft. There was literally no other airport that was not a military airbase that could take these aircraft anywhere between Moscow and St. Petersburg. That's why they had to fly all the way up to St. Petersburg, and they couldn't just re-divert to an airport nearby, which is kind of a little bit hilarious hilarious when you think about that, because here in America, paved airports are the name of the game. Like, you go to Birmingham, Alabama, boom, paved airport, the Birmingham Shuttlesworth Airport. You go down to Montgomery, boom, you got the Montgomery Regional Airport. You go all the way over here to, let's see here, Jackson, Mississippi, boom, the Jackson Medgar Willie Evers International Airport. There are loads of paved airports here, and a lot of them aren't that far from each other, at least not on nearly 400 miles away, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of how weak the infrastructure is in the Russian Federation. But let me just show y'all really quickly the videos that came out from the Pulkovo airport as dozens of these aircraft were really just sitting around after they all got diverted away from Moscow and to St. Petersburg all at the same time. That's what it's looking like right now out of Pulkovo.
Just beautiful. Also, I have a kite flying right there as well. That's kind of wild.
Actually, that is one of the birds, which is going to be eaten on Tuesday.
Is that really a bird, or is that a kite?
It's a bird riding the wind. It's a bird.
I'm pretty sure that's a kite, man. I think that's attached to that pole.
No, that's a bird, and it's going to eat on Tuesday. Actually, sadly, Tuesday's already passed. But we can go into another clip here showing us all the flights that were canceled sitting on the ground. Man, doesn't look like a good day in Russia. But beyond that, we were able to hear that a lot of people have had many different ideas and opinions on this so far, because we were able to hear that last night Ukrainian drones struck the airfield of Russia's Victory Day aerobatic teams, which are currently inside of Moscow right now. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts and prayers, and a lot of people are saying that this is just the beginning. And a decent amount of people are also saying that this is Ukraine's hit on Victory Day, and it's the one that came a little early. Some others are saying that they're unsure and undecided, and some people are saying this might be it, and they need some more intel. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So it looks like 43% said this is simply the beginning of it, while 41% said this is Ukraine's hit on V-Day. This is what they'll call their hit of it. And 7% said this might be it, but I need some more intel. And just for some more information, Russia's Victory Day aerobatic team was stationed at one of these airports that was struck by Ukrainian drones, and that was Ukraine's attempt to take that group out. It's unclear if they took the entire aerobatic team out or not. We really don't know just yet, but they did hit the airport where it was stationed at. So honestly, I think this is just the beginning of it, because Ukraine has been launching major attacks on Russia every single day with drones for the past couple of days, and I don't think they plan on stopping up until Victory Day itself. Now, whether or not they attack on Victory Day, that's another story, because that could be a pretty big deal. And once again, Putin's unilateral ceasefire or truce, I believe, went into effect today, from today forward until the Victory Day. So it's unclear if Ukraine's going to go any further than this, but I think, in my opinion, I think they probably will. I'm with the 43%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, in my opinion, this is most likely the hit, I would believe, because it is probably going to send enough of a signal that the parade may even be canceled for security concerns at this point. And I don't really think that the Ukrainians would want to risk a direct hit on the parade once again on May 9th because of the presence of a significant VIP who represents the entirety of China. So I would say for that reason, they're most likely going to consider this the hit. And if there are any attacks that occur on May 9th, I would highly doubt that they would be within the Moscow area. Although I may be surprised, because once again, we've never even really seen the Ukrainians consider or even suggest that they would attack Moscow during the May 9th parades. So that may be showing a change in doctrine, or more so a change in ideas in Ukraine about what is acceptable and what isn't. But still, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can, in my opinion. And moving on back into Moscow, we were also able to hear that Xi Jinping arrived in Moscow today. Look at Winnie the Pooh get out there. He's going to wave at the cameras. Hello, I'm about to be overthrown by the PLA, he says, as he walks out of the Air China plane.
Oh, honey. Oh, look, is that a nice honey pot over there? Oh, I'm sorry. It's a Russian air defense system. We'll need that.
Man, and also another thing, man, that was pretty good, is that we actually got more footage from the Russians, which made it like this whole dubstep hyped up thing. I'm gonna mute that now because, like, it literally, dude, that's kind of like the music that they play. It'd be like 15 contestants, only one spot to win. You know, it's like the same music for that. It's like they're showing up for a parade. They're not showing up to like win Lone Survivor. I don't know what the music was for that, but we can see the Air China plane pull up. There's Xi. Putin couldn't even meet them. That's how scared he is. He can't even show up to meet them arriving. We can also see
honestly,
Brazil.
you got to kind of respect the balls on Xi Jinping for showing up anyway, because honestly, if I was invited to a foreign country by a president and they said, look, I'm not going to be there at the parade, but you can go there yourself if you want because I'm a little bit too scared to go. I think I would personally probably say, I think I'm actually going to sit this one out too. I'm not going to show up anyway. But apparently, Xi either has a lot of confidence in Russia's military, which seems a bit ignorant in my opinion, or he believes he's safe, one or the other.
I think he believes he's untouchable, and you might be proven wrong. We don't really know. Like, it might be wrong. Though you see Brazil showing up. We can also see, what country was that? That actually was a cool-looking plane. I don't know whose country that is. That honestly looks like a chartered private plane, like from a company. You know what I mean, Matthew? It kind of has like. I don't think so. I have absolutely no clue what country that was. Was that Idi Amin? Oh, hold up. It appears it appears that. Unfortunately, I do not know that. Let me go look at the list of
Burkina Faso.
List of African flags. Let me go look and make sure. So, let's go to our African flag index. It would be. No way. Wait, hang on. Let me make sure. Mali? It was Mali. Wait a minute. Was that Mali that showed up? Let me go check the flag. So it is green, yellow, and red. Green's the closest one to the. So it's Mali. So Mali's showing up to the Victory Day parade, in apparently a chartered private plane. I'm assuming. But we can see them. Now, oh, no way. Serbia, look, it's the Chud Jack. He's here. He's here, Matthew.
Oh, man. That guy right there, I tell you what. Jeez.
We now see Putin. He's here. Blessed be. It's time for me to say stupid shit and pretend to be big man.
Look how huge this table is. He likes his space.
He's like, listen, folks, I know that I put out a whole bunch of shit about COVID and social distancing, but I really believe in it. It's like, you keep away from me, boy. See him here. Now taking a picture. Hold up. Okay. Oh, look, it's the horse. Bro, I heard that they gave him away today as a gift to Venezuela.
Oh man, they couldn't do that to him.
But they said it was a thoroughbred. They did it to him, man.
I tell you what, that's kind of like a mutt.
Oh, look, it's empanada guy. Like the guy who ate an empanada on national TV, Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. There they are signing the strategic partnership agreement. Dude, the Russian honor guard stuff that they have to do is so stupid. Like, look at that pose. That is the dumbest pose.
Like they're judging. They look like they're judging him or something like that. It's like, look up my nose. Like, we don't want to see up your nose, okay?
Man, honestly. This appears to be Mongolia. I don't know who that is. Oh, it's victory, yes! And they're not winning the war in Ukraine, so, kind of a little bit of a weird kind of a thing, the contrast between the two.
Why does Russia's why are they so big into these 3D cutout letters that they put out everywhere? It's like, is that the only decoration they know how to make is like the 3D signage?
Dude, they saw New York do it once with the I Heart New York thing, and they were like, that is the shit. Like, we're doing that forever now. And they just been doing it for the past 20 years. I don't know why. Because it really honestly got old after 2 years. It's like, okay, that's cool. Let's just pack that up and move on. And they just keep bringing it out over and over and over. I don't know what's up with their fascination with that, honestly, but I feel like it's a fascination that is well beyond its time. They should give up on that.
I would say so. I agree 100%.
Man, I would agree. We also got to see that Maduro and Putin did sign a strategic partnership today between the two countries, once again showing that socialist Nicolas Maduro isn't a nice guy. Teaming up with guys like this.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, начинается церемония подписания.
The Russian commentator said that this was the signing ceremony.
Empezamos ceremonia de la firma.
The translator in Spanish is saying, Nicholas, don't worry, you will have 5 more minutes, and there's an empanada behind that door.
Российско-венесуэльских переговоров на высшем уровне Президент Российской Федерации Владимир Владимирович Путин и президент Боливарианской Республики Венесуэла Николас Мадуро Морос.
The commentator in Russian right now is saying that we are giving a massive state gift to the Socialist Republic of Venezuela, which comes in the form of a thoroughbred named Sergei Lavrov. He is what they call the Russian trotter, and he actually trots quite well. When you stomp on his feet at the UN Assembly, he goes, "Whee!" And no other horse can do that. It's truly a thoroughbred, like by all means.
Подписывают договор между Российской Федерацией и Боливарианской.
Also, it looks like everyone in the crowd looks like they can't be bothered to be here. Like, literally everyone's looking around like they have something better to do, if y'all don't notice.
Николас Мадуро Морос подписывают договор между Российской.
And also, he's over there apparently trying to lick the salt off of his mouth from licking on the salt block earlier in the stable.
Федерацией и Боливарианской Республикой Венесуэла о стратегическом.
There's just something about Maduro. Like, there's something about that guy. Every time I look at him, I think that guy might make a good dictator.
You know, every time I look at him, I think, dude, he would probably eat a mean empanada. Let me go pull up that picture of him eating that empanada on national TV. Because some of y'all might think that sounds like it's just like a made-up insult. He actually did that on national TV. Like, if you're not believing me, there he is. Like, this is a frame from that national address. In the middle of the national address,
yeah.
he whipped open the drawer on the desk of his office, like the desk in his office, and he whipped out a whole empanada and just started eating that thing. Like, he went off, and then he realized the camera was still on him, and he flung it right back in the drawer, shut it, and then went right back to his address. This guy, honestly, is one of the biggest clowns I've ever seen. Let me go see if I can actually pull up that.
He started shoveling, man. He was shoveling. He was literally like cramming. He was going for the empanada.
Dude, they actually said for 5 seconds Dyson Vacuums was scared because that guy was sucking down the empanada quicker than a Dyson ever could. But let me go see here. Maduro eats empanada. Actually, I've apparently Googled this before. It is a trip, and I'm going to show it to y'all. I'm going to mute the music, though. And I'm going to show this to y'all very briefly. Just a few seconds of it right here. He was going to town on that thing on national TV. Like, who does that? Especially a leader of a country. It's like, can't you wait until it's over? That guy was harking. But beyond that, whenever I look at Maduro, I always think, man, he probably could eat a mean empanada. And he can. And that's actually proven. He can do it.
И сотрудничестве.
Por los resultados de la
But anyways, the strategic partnership was signed. Really, in a big sense, that doesn't really mean much anything, but to them, it means a lot. Nevertheless, it does appear that everyone is now here, waiting for the Victory Day parade to begin here in a couple of days, and we'll see the kind of chaos and buffoonery that happens during the Victory Day parade. Nevertheless, Russian media claims Putin is preparing an airstrike strike on Kyiv if V-Day attacks occur. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts, and a lot of people are saying that Russia is planning a false flag attack. Others are saying that they're really going to attack it. Well, Ukraine's really going to attack it. Some people are saying one of the options will happen, and some are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about this as well?
So it looks like the most people, about 50%, said Russia is planning a false flag attack, while 19% said Ukraine is actually going to attack the Victory Day parade, and 18% said maybe one of the options is going to happen. It's going to be one or the other. So honestly, right now, with Russian media running around claiming that an airstrike strike is going to happen on Kyiv if the V-Day attack does occur, it sounds like they're trying to scare the Ukrainians off from attacking. That's probably the most likely reason behind it. Or it could be they're setting the stage for a false flag escalation, and maybe that's why they're saying it as well. But generally speaking, I think that Russia is going to do either a false flag or Ukraine is actually going to attack. I think one or the other is going to happen. It seems like things are really brewing up quite severely right now. And with Ukraine attacking the aerobatics team and also attacking Moscow right before the dignitaries showed up, that's a pretty strong indicator that something is about to happen on May the 9th. But once again, not saying with certainty it will happen, but I'm saying it's sort of leaning likely that way. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would have to say that I would believe that the Russians may be planning a false flag attack, because it's a little bit interesting here that they are already preparing for an airstrike strike, considering that they haven't seen anything happen yet to really prepare for that kind of a strike. So I would say they may be preparing a false flag so that way they can justify an airstrike launch on Ukraine, although I really still don't know how this would fall under any kind of a justification to use a nuclear-capable weapon, although once again, this thing may not be nuclear armed. They might just fire it into Kyiv if they do that, and if so, I'd say the Ukrainians ought to go for it, because because it would be kind of funny for them to hit the Victory Day parade and in response the Russians fire duds back into Ukraine again and waste another valuable missile that they really have a hard time building. But anyways, with that, I hope we were able to address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And moving on from that and into Ukraine, we were able to get the air defense report from last night, and we were able to hear that 81 drones were shot down directly. 64 were also suppressed from electronic warfare measures, and also 2 Iskander-Ims were also shot down last night. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. And it appears that he is going to be very scared because Ukrainian air defense is doing quite well. Moving on from that and on into the area of the Kursk Oblast, we were able to hear that the town of Tetkino was surrounded. I don't know why all Russian commentators sound like that, man. They always sound like they're on like they are so tired of life. I don't know why. But beyond that, we were able
could
to
actually be tired of life. That could be a real possibility.
I got this job 50 years ago, and due to continuity reasons, they will not let me quit. I want to quit so badly, but they will not let me stop. Please help me. You know, it's like something maybe on those lines. But beyond that, we were able to see that the Ukrainians did surround Tetkino today, and the Russians appear to be a little bit scared in there. However, it does not appear that the offensive is going entirely well in every direction, as we were able to hear in Novi Put that there appears to be a decent amount of Ukrainian losses that were taken crossing the border. We were able to confirm that 3 armored cars and a Bradley appear to have been abandoned or destroyed directly crossing the border, about 1,000 feet in, just about. It's not that far in. So it does appear that at least at this moment, the Ukrainian offensive at Novi Put is not doing that well, but the Ukrainian offensive at Tetkino has practically surrounded the town at this point, so that side of the offensive is doing quite well. Meanwhile, moving on into our location unknowns, we also were able to see Ukrainian long-range drones getting ready, and that seems like an interesting message to me.
I would say so. Also, by the way, sorry, I'm a little bit distracted. I'm currently getting some breaking news I'm reading into right now, but go right ahead.
Breaking news! But beyond that, it appears that it says, "Happy night of me, Vladimir," which appears to be a little bit of an insinuation of something to the Russians. Meanwhile, we got the Russian casualty report as well for the day, and holy smokes, folks, no Bobcats! No Bobcats!
0 Bobcats. What the hell is going on? But tell us more.
I gotta tell you, there's a lot to be said here. And Miss DC Keeper of the Record said, highest tanks daily loss since April 19th of 2025. Which is pretty high. 71 artillery pieces ranks as the 14th highest day, tied with 3 other days, and troop and vehicle losses are above the 7-day average. Nevertheless, it does appear that the casualties were pretty impressive today, as we were able to hear that 1,270 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed, along with 3 APCs, 131 supply trucks, 14 main battle tanks, 71 artillery pieces, 124 drones, and 1 cruise missile were all shot down in the course of 24 hours. A very impressive stat. Meanwhile, moving all the way down the front lines past the area Kupiansk, the Severonsky Forest, and Bakhmut, we were able to make our way down into Toretsk, where we were able to hear that the Ukrainians in the 28th Brigade were defending against drones. And we can hear that they're playing that dubstep remix here, as the Ukrainians are firing their AKs at the Russian FPV drone just off in the distance. And we see the Ukrainians are successfully shooting down a decent amount of these things, at least in this montage here.
Also, by the way, while we're looking at this right now, I do have some breaking news coming out of India and Pakistan. Right now, we are getting some unconfirmed reports that apparently at the Karachi airport, which is now known by another name, which I don't have right off the top of my head right now, they've apparently temporarily halted all flight operations as Pakistan is reporting that they've shot down an Indian drone over that airport, and that is a pretty large international airport in Pakistan. We're also getting word as well that Pakistani media is confirming a very large blast that occurred in Lahore, which is toward the northern part of Pakistan, which is where we looked at earlier. So right now, no confirmation as to what hit, but I am seeing it appears to be Pakistani media, state TV, that there is a major ball of smoke arising from Lahore, and it's most likely a strike by the Indians, but of course, we do not know that for a fact. But there's something going down right now from the Indian side being aggressed on Pakistan.
Very interesting, and thank you for sharing that breaking news with us in the middle of the Ukraine war segment, Matthew. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see the Ukrainian police in the Cord unit destroying Russian armored vehicles on the outskirts of Toretsk here in this clip as well. When you see the Russian vehicles advancing through the fields, and the Ukrainian police are getting ready to line them up and smoke them, or as they say, apprehend the suspect. And we see them here apprehending those suspects. They're double locking the cuffs. They are turning on the body cam, and they are letting the 9mm rip. And we see them slamming multiple FPV drones into this Russian column and making sure to finish off the remaining vehicles that may be slightly serviceable. And I would say that by the end of this, they certainly weren't serviceable. We also got to see near to Orlivka a Buk M3 on fire in the fields. Here we can see the Buk M3 on fire in the field. I'm surprised they're driving that close to it. The whole thing could blow, and they would be well within the blast radius for the large part.
Oh man, the whole thing could blow.
Aw, man. But moving on from that and on into our next clip, we also got to see further on at Pokrovsk that a Russian attack column was also hit in this direction today as well. The Ukrainian offensives around Pokrovsk have largely stopped. We're believing that they may have run out of momentum, and this means that the Ukrainians are back on the defensive. We can see here that the Russians' attack columns are still getting targeted and destroyed, meaning that these offensives are fairly difficult to conduct without high casualties and, of course, still making minimum gains. You see here the artillery falling. And we see them continuing to hit the Russian vehicles in the fields quite heavily.
Also, by the way, I do have some more information now out of India and Pakistan about the explosions heard inside of Lahore, inside of Pakistan. It appears to be that Pakistan Today, which is a pretty big journal in Pakistan, they're reporting that a blast was heard near the Walton airport. The sirens were also going off as well, and the officials are trying to investigate what hit it. And apparently, it was on Walton Road in Lahore, and apparently the authorities showed up. They confirmed the blast, but they did not confirm what the munition was on the ground. And apparently a ton of eyewitnesses saw it apparently coming in or exploding, but they don't know exactly what it was, like I mentioned. So we only have like 1 or 2 photos of it. I'm trying to go back and see if I can grab another photo here to show on the stream. And I do have one. So let me send this to the Enforcer on Discord so I can show everybody in the audience what we are seeing right now. Let me copy and paste that and send it over. And that should be in your Discord, by the way. This is an image from Lahore from Twitter, and it should be pretty accurate.
Gotcha. So let's take a little gander here, folks. Let's take a little gander. And that appears to be the impact, at least the one of the clips that we were able to see at this point. And Matthew, is it near to the, I want to make sure that I get the name correct, the Allama Iqbal International Airport?
So they're saying the Lahore airport was hit, and it's the Walton airfield is what the story is currently saying.
The Walton airfield. The only major airport I was able to see nearby to the area was that one, the Iqbal airport. And I was
there should be a Walton Road in Lahore. That would be where the airport's located.
Walton Road. So, let's see here. It does not actually appear, at least at this moment, that there is a airport on Walton Road. I'm personally not seeing one. The closest one to it is the Allama Iqbal International Airport, but I'm not seeing one here in the specific area of the city.
Interesting. So they're saying Walton Airfield near Lahore Airport hit. So maybe it's just a bad wording on this because I think it is translated from a different language into English. But apparently maybe that's where eyewitnesses were hearing the explosions from. But they're saying that the hit and the blast happened near the airport.
Interesting. I actually think it is from the area of the Allama Iqbal International Airport. And you know, Matthew, I keep saying it because I'm trying to think. Well, I'm trying to reinvigorate a memory in you. Do you remember anything about a certain Iqbal?
Yes, I do. That's a case law.
Iqbal v. Twombly. Like, it's just like,
yes.
Oh god, dude! It literally brought back nightmares for me from law school, man. I was like, oh my god, it's back. That damn Iqbal. But anyways. With that in mind, it does appear that there has been a hit on this airport, at least at the moment, because this is the only one in the area. We do not see any others in Lahore. So with that in mind, it appears to be this specific airport. Also, by the way, Matthew, I was looking around and I just started to notice how odd of a town, or a city more so, this place is. I really don't know what to make of it, because there's a whole area called China Scheme, in this town, as well as another one that is called Samanabad Town, and then there's also Muslim Town, and then there's also There's also DHA phase 3. It's like, is that like diabetes? Like there's like phase 1 and phase 2 is like that, is that the same thing? Like I don't know. Also there is another place called State Life. This place is interesting. We also got the ripoff of Gaza. We got Ghazi Road. That's like Gotti, but also Gaza at the same time, so they melded them together. And also, there's just, this town doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. We also have Etihad Town. I don't even...
That's crazy,
and
honestly.
also, Matthew, there's the town of Chung, which is interesting as well. We'll keep that one between you and me. But also, what an interesting place, folks. But apparently the Pakistanis, even though they're friends with the Chinese, named an entire neighborhood China's Scheme, which seems pretty on par. Like, you would think that China's scheming. What does it look like around here? Oh, actually not that bad, at least in this park. Interesting. Anyways, with that, I hope we were able to address that well, at least the news we're getting out of Lahore right now. And moving on from that and further down towards Kurakovy, we are also able to see the Ukrainians hitting some Russian drones in the area, which we can see right here in this clip. When you see them targeting the drone, flying on in, up. Oh, and they got it.
Oh, and they really got it good right there. Look at that. Hey, look, there's something holding up that QR code behind there. It's like a creature.
It's like a cat or something, maybe. Perhaps. Nevertheless, moving on from that clip and on into our next one further down near Velika Novosilka, we got to see the Ukrainians repelling a bonsai attack that the Russians conducted on dirt bikes. What a bonsai attack. It's a bonsai attack in the 21st century. Oh, man, they're just slamming them. Oh my goodness. Man, they went running. Like, zoink scoop. Oh, dang, bro.
Damn, son. They got zoinked and jinkied.
Like, zoink scoop. They're targeting us. Raggy precision.
Okay, and also we're getting some more clarification here. David Tablet tells us in the live chat that Walton Airfield in Pakistan, in that town, it's Lahore, it was converted to a central business district. So they're referring to the airfield that no longer exists, but that is the location where blasts were being heard from. So it's no longer an airfield, but that is generally referring to the location. So apparently, if you're a local, you know where that's at. But if you see it from Google Maps, it no longer exists.
So I guess it's from around this giant area here where this weird road exists, maybe. This, you can kind of see what it looks like it may have been a runway here before, maybe. So somewhere around here.
Yeah, it's on Walton Road. So they heard it from there, and the explosions were happening somewhere nearby.
Near the Falcon Complex. Honestly, dude, there's a lot of weird names in this town, man. Like, can't. Bro, I can't. It's like, that's like an actual place to live here. And also it looks like they have Jinnah Flyover as a street. And then New Supertown. And Supertown. So you have Supertown here and then New Supertown across the street. You also have the Medea colony. So that's where all of Tyler Perry's like shitty movies go. Like they go into the Medea colony.
Also, by the way, before you move on from this little segment right here, I was actually, through a pure miracle, I was able to locate a video allegedly showing the hit here near the old Walton Airfield. It's no longer an airfield anymore. But if you check the top of our Twitter page, you'll see there is a video allegedly showing a drone, an Indian drone, striking right near this abandoned airfield. So let's take a peek.
Let's take a gander at it. You see some smoke already rising.
You can hear the sirens going off as well, the air raid sirens.
That looks so far to be some kind of a hit by a kamikaze drone possibly on the town.
I would say so, based on at least seeing what we're seeing here in the video, the air raid sirens going off, the plume of smoke, and also it wasn't a very large explosion. Like people were saying the blast was loud, but it looks like the plume of smoke is rather small. So it must have been probably a drone.
I would assume so. And moving on from that and back into our Ukraine footage, we were able to see the Ukrainians continuing to target and take out Russians in the Bonsai attack near to the area of Velika Novosilka. Quite interesting to see. And also, Matthew, thank you for sharing that breaking news update. I'm just wanting to make sure that we can get through the Ukraine war news, though, because it does sound like things are kicking off in India and Pakistan, and we want to make sure to be able to have a little bit more room to cover it. Moving on from that, we were able to see 110th Mechanized Brigade also targeting and destroying a Russian mine-laying vehicle on the Zaporizhia front today as well, which we can see right there. There it is. That's a disguised mine-laying vehicle, and the Ukrainians are about to lay a mine on it. Mind the gap, everyone. Mind the gap. Here comes the drone, and it's about to finish this thing off. And any second, this thing's about to go nuclear. When you see that it got hit, and it's smoking. I mean,
also, a lot of people were saying, how come the Pakistanis didn't know that the airport is no longer there? I think it's just the old heads, like they won't stop calling it that, even though it's been apparently reconverted or demolished or something. So they keep calling it the old Walton Airfield, but it's just like you have to live there to know it was the old Walton Airfield because it's no longer that.
Yeah, man. I always hang out by the old rail yard. Oh, do you look at trains there? No, it's a neighborhood now. But I like hanging out by the rail yard. It's like, what is that? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Dude, honestly, man, we're about to put their asses in the Medea colony along with all those crappy movies. Like, it's like saying something ridiculous like that. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to move on to Kyiv and cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 1169 of the war. And so, without further ado, here is the speech. Speech!
Дорогі українці, сьогодні фактично весь день в нашій країні повітряні тривоги. Вночі знов був удар російських ракет та дронів. Балістика більш ніж 140 ударних дронів за ніч. Було гучно в Києві, в інших наших містах. І, на жаль, є поранення. На жаль, є загиблі. Мої співчуття всім рідним та близьким. Весь день триває розбір завалів у Харкові, в Сумах, також в столиці. Я вдячний усім нашим людям, які щодня рятують, які щодня допомагають. Кожна мобільна вогнева група, всі розрахунки дронів, перехоплювачів, кожен підрозділ ППО, наша бойова авіація. Я дякую вам за результативні чергування. Щотижня ми працюємо, щоб наше українське небо було більш захищене. І тижні зараз не виключення. Триває робота з партнерами, щоб ми змогли не тільки отримати нові системи ППО і ракети до них, але й також, щоб змогли локалізувати виробництво в Україні потрібних нам систем і ракет. Це одне зі стратегічних рішень, які потрібні. І загалом для безпеки в Європі, не лише для нашої країни. Захист неба України – це одна з основ майбутньої безпекової архітектури. І абсолютно справедливо, що російське небо, небо агресора сьогодні дзеркально, теж неспокійно. Україна і наша пропозиція – припинити удари, припинити вогонь, щонайменше на 30 діб залишається в силі. Ми не знімаємо цю пропозицію, яка може дати шанс дипломатії. Але саме від Росії світ не бачить відповіді. Жодної відповіді, крім нових ударів. Це максимально чітко, очевидно для всіх демонструє, хто джерело війни. Росія має закінчити свою агресію, і це їм доведеться зробити. Питання часу. Війна – це програш для всіх, в тому числі для агресора. Санкції проти Росії за цю війну будуть збільшуватись. І це відчутні санкції. Правосуддя світу теж буде працювати. Багато в чому, на жаль, повільно, але, що важливо, невідворотно. Ми готуємо новини щодо цього. Ми прискорюємо справедливість. Сьогодні також була доповідь главкома Сирського щодо наших активних дій на території Курської та Білгородської областей. Ми захищаємо українську землю від ворожої активності в прикордонні. Я хочу подякувати Сьогодні кожному підрозділу, всім нашим солдатам, всім нашим сержантам і командирам дякую вам всім за стійкість та реальну силу, яка так потрібна Україні. Ще одне. Завтра Верховна Рада України має ратифікувати угоду про економічне партнерство зі Сполученими Штатами Америки. Угода написана так, щоб відповідати національним інтересам України. Безпека та економіка завжди йдуть пліч-опліч. Нам потрібні десятиліття прогнозованого і відчутного економічного зростання. Стратегічне бачення Америки – формувати нові економічні партнерства. Це працюватиме і на оборону України, і на нашу оборону взаємодію. Стратегічне бачення України – залучати партнерів до реальної роботи тут, в Україні. Інвестувати тут, розвивати виробництво на нашій землі. І саме це ми і робимо. Важливо, щоб усі депутати усвідомлювали вагу цієї угоди і підтримали перспективи, які угода відкриває. Я дякую усім, хто з Україною. Дякую кожному і кожній, хто на захисті нашої держави. Слава Україні!
And Heron Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 1169 of the war. And that is going to be moving us on into the second segment of this stream where we get to talk to all of y'all and also cover some breaking news if it's coming out here and there. And boy, howdy, folks, do we have some real interesting stuff to talk about with all y'all. We can talk about literally anything and everything during this question segment. And we've got a whole deal going on down there, a whole grand deal going on down in India and Pakistan. And we get to talk about all that fun stuff and everything in the Middle East and everything with China and everything in Ukraine and everything in Western Europe and everything in America. Well, except for the domestic politics side of things. But beyond that, it is a fun question segment. And I also have to give a huge shout out to everyone who's been here with us so far during the news segment. We hope that you'll stay for the second segment of this show. It's a fun one. It's a fun one, Jerry the best, Jerry the best. But beyond that, I also have to give a huge thanks to the 90,000 people who have watched the stream so far over just the first hour and 52 minutes of the thing. And I also got to give a huge shout out to the massive 13.1 thousand people who are here tonight and watching the stream. We are entirely honored and appreciative to have so many of y'all here each and every single night enjoying the stream and, of course, being here and watching it all the way through. We love to know that we are able to be y'all's mainstay of news coverage, and not only that, hopefully a little bit of entertainment and a little bit of laughs maybe here and there throughout the course of about 3.5 hours of y'all's day every single day. And so I got to thank you all so much once again for being here, and I also have to thank everyone for subscribing so far tonight. We have gotten up to 351,300 subscribers. Crazy! Absolutely insane. That actually means that we gained about 800 subscribers today, give or take, which is an absolutely insane amount of subscribers in a single day. So pretty impressive stuff. And I got to thank everyone once again today for watching our stream and our video and subscribing. We love to have y'all here, and we hope y'all stay. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on into them wonderful questions. And so what do we got, Matthew? What do we got?
All right, so jumping right into our last Super Chat segment, we have some very juicy ones to get to, and also you might have noticed we are fresh out of polls already, so no polls to get to, and we're jumping straight into our Super Chats. And also, if we do get breaking news out of India and Pakistan throughout the segment, we will interrupt it to bring that to you live, but right now, what we've reported is all we know at the moment, so we'll keep you all up to date. But moving on to our first Super Chat, this one goes to Dustin Mayo, who's another longtime channel legend, and he puts in a very generous $50 donation. And thank you very much, Dustin, for that very generous support. He said, for coffee and from this channel legend.
Hey, thank you for the coffee fund. We're actually running out of coffee, I think, just today nearly. So we will have to go get some fresh cold brew, nitro cold brew. And I got to thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running from another old guard. From one old guard to another. I got to thank you greatly for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, because you're making it a reality for us to be on air each and every day, getting to cover all of the news that's going on. And I gotta say, it is a crazy thing, the amount of news that's going on in the world these days. Oh, so far over the history of the channel, we have been able to cover an insane amount of news and a whole bunch of things that you would just never expect to happen while you're, on a YouTube channel. We were able to cover the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the death of the Pope, Pope Francis. We didn't really get to cover that too much, but we did announce it here on the show. We also got to cover the death of Shinzo Abe and his unfortunate assassination at Nara in Japan. We also got to cover the rising tensions of the border conflict that went on for a short while between North and South Korea. We also got to talk about the ongoing tensions that have been rising for years between China and Taiwan. We've also been able to talk about the U.S. trade war, a change of presidents. We have actually been running the stream for so long that we have seen 2 different presidents in the running of the stream so far. We've also been able to cover the war in Ukraine, the rising tensions in between Russia and Europe, as well as the United States. We've been able to see the failed negotiating attempts in between the United States and Russia. We've been able to see the war kick off between Israel and Iran. We've been able to see at least 2 different proxy wars start and end in that time. We've been able to see the United States start bombing the Houthis twice now. We have been able to see a load of stuff over just 1,169 days of covering this news. And it's pretty crazy to think that you've been around here for a lot of that. And I got to thank you so much for being around and enjoying hearing all of that news from us rather than anywhere else, because you could go anywhere and yet you chose to be here. And we're massively grateful and appreciative for that. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well. And also, I see someone saying, if you're going to talk like you know something, look, man, I get it wrong. I said that earlier. I think I actually said to you in the live chat, it is what it is, man. Like, sometimes we get things wrong on air. We can't get everything right. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so we do have some more breaking news right now. An update about the alleged drone attack in the city of Lahore in Pakistan. Right now, we are hearing rumors. And once again, take this with a grain of salt. It is just rumors. We're being told that the Naval College, Askari FAW, might have been the target of that drone attack in Lahore near the old Walton Airport. So unfortunately, if we can try to find that Naval College and see exactly where that location is inside of Lahore, that would give us a better idea of exactly where the drone allegedly impacted, if that is indeed the case. Also, by the way, that was not the only alleged drone attack we heard about. There was the one in Lahore and also in Chakwal and Sialkot that allegedly happened as well. And we're seeing here that the debris is currently being searched for, and the destroyed drones that have been recovered are taken into custody by the police at the moment. So that is the update. Also, we do have another video allegedly showing first responders showing up to the scene on our Twitter page as well.
Interesting. And we actually were able to find the Pakistan Navy War College. It's right next to what appears to be the retired airstrip from what we're able to see at this point. And also, let me go to Twitter so that way we can get them videos and show them here as well. And so let me go get those really quickly. And here we are. This is, according to the information that we have, Pakistan shot down an Indian drone in Lahore, Chakwal, and Sialkot this morning. One Indian drone was flying near the Walton Airport of Lahore this morning, but it was destroyed with a Big Bang report. Debris not found. Destroyed drones were taken into custody by police, meaning that they put them in cuffs. But we were also able to see another clip right here. This appears to be another angle, once again from the Naval College. And that's the end of that clip, but still very interesting to see.
There's one more showing the first responders showing up right there in those ones.
Man, a Toyota. Not a bad pick. Wait a minute, was that a
also,
Palestine
appears to be a
flag?
Palestine flag on the front too.
Well, folks, I don't think we can support Pakistan now, folks. Don't think we can.
Also, there's more confirmation. This is in the city of Lahore. It says bomb disposal in the civilian area of Lahore. So there's more confirmation. This is from the site.
Very good. It's very good to see that. We do have proof. And then some Pakistani person is going to come in and go, there is no proof. Nothing happened. It's like, oh my God. We're issuing, like, I'll be honest, folks, we're issuing instant bans to anyone who comes in here doing that kind of stuff, because there have been just too many of them. So with that, you see that right there. That is clear proof that something did happen near the Naval College. And also, I do have to say this, Matthew. What kind of sense does it make to put your Navy War College in the middle of a landlocked city hundreds of miles away from the nearest actual body of water? Wouldn't it make more sense to put that in Karachi?
Yeah, it would make more sense to put it there. Also, by the way, Karachi airports had their air operations totally suspended as well, just as a side note. So I know it's totally separate from the question, but they've also been restricted their airport. But yeah, seems a bit weird to put it in Lahore, but consider it's nowhere near the water.
Man, I mean, honestly, man, that's just kind of a Crazy. Also, by the way, we have there's a mole in our group, and also, by the way, I like how this is just apparently the desert owned by the Goths, because everything here has Goth something as its name. Like this one, Goth Pathan Khan Burrow. Like that's a mix of Spanish, Goth people, and then also the Wrath of Khan from Star Trek right there. It's a mix. Like a very interesting thing. I guess you could say damn about that one.
I would say, damn. Also, by the way, guess what, folks? I'm getting pretty decent at finding this intel from the region of Pakistan because, of course, we're generally pretty good at finding information about Russia and Ukraine, and also Israel and Iran. But it's a little bit more challenging to find the news about Pakistan because we really don't have really concrete sources for that yet. But I found more footage from Lahore showing apparently the strike on, at least allegedly, take it with a grain of salt, on the Naval College. So it's at the top of our Twitter page.
Let's take a gander at that. Oh, yes, we can see the strike at the Naval War College. Take a look at this. That's the end of that clip. It was a very short one, 3 seconds long, but it does appear to be showing some sort of an ongoing fire, possibly in the area from either fallen debris or the actual impact to the college. But I do want to point this out to some folks because this is something I find a little bit interesting, is that their Naval College, Naval War College, is all the way up here. And I guess that's their version of the Naval Academy. And the U.S. Naval Academy is, I believe, in, let me make sure here. Let me think. It's like in Annapolis, I believe. Let me just pull up the Naval Academy. Yeah, it's in Annapolis. So as you can see right here, it's actually near a large body of water, which makes a lot of sense considering it's the Naval Academy. And you know, it's for the Navy, not the Army. So it's near water because that's what the Navy does. So a little bit weird that their Naval War College is literally all the way up in the middle of the most landlocked city that you could imagine. I find that a little bit bizarre. That's like saying, let's put the Naval Academy in the middle of Afghanistan. It's like, does that really make any sense? Like, no, it does not. But apparently that was the target. And also, man, for another thing like that, I'm thinking, why the hell would you put a naval academy that close to the border of the country that you literally are at war with exclusively all the time?
Yeah, that's not very smart, I will say. Although it's not smart of Pakistan to do that, but for whatever reason, Pakistan's able to apparently put a whooping on India when they feel like it, at least temporarily. It might change in the future, depending on what breaks out. But so far, not too bad. Also, it looks like the drone might have been shot down by the Pakistanis and then the debris fell on the college, or it could be that it actually made a hit. But once again, it's not a huge smoke plume, so it doesn't look like it was a lot of damage. It was just like a sort of, I would say, kind of a superficial hit based on what we're seeing from a distance.
Yeah, I would have to say it looks superficial because there's no major fire, and it doesn't really appear that we've seen significant damage yet. But once again, we haven't seen footage that's wildly close up. But still interesting to note on that one. Pretty interesting. Also, by the way, man, I'm going to have to eventually try and get familiar with all of these towns, and there's so many of them. Like, dude, look at this, man. When you zoom out, all of these little dots, these little, like, whitish, yellowish dots are all different towns.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. That's honestly like learning about India and Pakistan is like feels like learning about like the Middle East and Ukraine combined for some reason. It feels like overwhelming.
You know, honestly, folks, I gotta be honest with y'all. The Indians and the Pakistanis have such high population densities wherever they're living that it almost is like looking at a Warhammer 40K hive city with like how many people will be in an area. It's like, oh, look, it's just this like, you know, this unheard of town, Bathinda. How many people are in Bathinda, India? Would y'all like to guess? Bathinda, India population. Let's take a look. So 396,000 people alone. So here in Alabama, that actually would be the largest city in the state of Alabama. And you wouldn't even know that that's a place in India. I remember one time I heard someone's like, oh, it's not that big of a city. Like this one, Ludhiana. Let me go pull that one up. Let's see. So this city has a population of 2 million people. So that means that this city is about roughly the size of Atlanta, Georgia. Just to give you all an idea of how big these cities are in these places. And what's crazy is that they are so densely packed that they hardly even take up the size of an area like Atlanta. Like, let's measure from end to end, from widest ends. So this town is 9 miles across. At its longest, like at its widest area, it's about 9 to 10 miles across. So let me impose that 2 million population sized area over, say, Atlanta, Georgia. So this would be about the width right here. 9.5 miles exactly. That would be the width of this 2 million population city over Atlanta, Georgia. And to give you all a bit of an idea of how big Atlanta is, let me just show you all the suburbs as they exist. So Atlanta stops about out here at Macedonia. So if we were to measure from just there to the epicenter of Atlanta, so let's do that really quickly. That is a whole whopping 35 miles. And it extends like that in every direction. So Atlanta is about 60 miles across with about 2 million people in it roughly. That city, which most people have probably never heard of in India, which is the city, let me make sure, of Ludhiana, is only 10 miles across and has the same number of people living in it. I mean, the population density there is quite truly extreme in most places.
Yeah, it's really insane how it is packed in there like that. Like honestly, like I've just never really seen like an Indian town that looks like it's very sparse whatsoever. They all look like that, and also the towns in Pakistan seem to look like that as well. I personally wouldn't want to live in an environment that's that packed together. That seems like super claustrophobic, and also it's just hard to keep it clean when there's this many people in one place like this. It's just overwhelming to try to keep it clean. So it's not really my thing.
Yeah, I would have to say it's not really my thing too much. And you know, there's some interesting things with like food hygiene that I think many people know about. You know, there's not really like a lot of, you know, wash your hands before work kind of a deal that goes on there. And I literally like maybe I'm mistaken, but I've never heard of anyone, at least on YouTube, that has really ever traveled to India, ate the food, and not got sick. Like that's a reason why I probably wouldn't travel to India, because you know you've got to eat, and like if you're gonna get food poisoning or you know just get absolutely sick from eating something over there and get dysentery, kind of like the Grand Tour did. Like I think all of them got sick, from what you were telling me, Matthew. Just being over there for a couple of days, it's like that is tough. Like that's like dropping down in the middle of Clathandu and like it's Starship Troopers and expecting to survive. You know, it's like that's a rough one. But anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that somewhat well, but still a little bit of an interesting thing to look at. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to John Person, who just threw in a very generous $50 donation. And thank you very much, John, for also being a longtime channel viewer and a legend, and we appreciate you very much. And he said, check out the border ceremony at the Atari Wagah border between India and Pakistan. They do elaborate and rapid dance moves, kicking their legs as high as possible, and LSA.
And long live the LSA. And we've actually looked at this before. I can't actually show any of the clips, however, unfortunately, of the actual border crossing ceremony, because most of them are copyright and we don't have the permissions to show them. But we can at least show the area. Let me see if there is a picture of it actually happening. Maybe we can show that. This is just the border crossing area between Pakistan and India, and they have this giant border closing ceremony. We actually did cover this a while ago. It was about a week and a half ago at this point when the borders war actually began, before the total war. And personally, I like military ceremonies are supposed to be serious and steeped with tradition. Dance moves as a thing to one-up each other at a border crossing is something that I don't really get a lot. I mean, you know, I don't mean to like just sound like I'm dissing on Pakistan and India endlessly, but that's something that I just never got. And whenever I would look at it, I'm like, you know, it's like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, it makes a lot of sense with like the changing of the guard at Windsor Castle or say at Buckingham Palace. Those sorts of things make a lot of sense to me. They're steeped in tradition. Mostly they're based in some sort of utilitarian principle, but that is based in a utilitarian principle, but they took it and then like the best way I could describe it is like they Tiger Kinged the whole thing, like where it's just like really over the top, you know, and you got some guy wandering around that owns like a tiger enclosure that's, you know, sitting there going, I can't financially recover from this, you know, and all that sort of like it feels like the same kind of presentation. Now I don't really like that too much, you know, like at least to me. So I hope that does address it well. I have seen it before personally. It's just that it's a really interesting thing, but something I can't really get behind as far as military traditions. But beyond that, I do thank you so much once again for the massive support, John Person, helping this channel to keep on running. And long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. Also, by the way, just another piece of breaking news that we're currently getting right now from Chandigarh, India. We're being told that all medical officers and staff at AAMs and UAAMs are immediately required to cancel their leaves until further notice, and that they must be available for emergency duty 24/7 and report immediately if called, no matter the time and place. And apparently they're following this up with disciplinary actions if they do not comply. So they're calling in all the medical professionals they can in India right now to prepare for something that's about to happen. We've also seen that, I believe, is on the Pakistani side as well. They've done that also. So it looks like they're getting the hospitals ready for a very large emergency to be ready 24/7. So quite a big piece of news.
That does sound pretty big. It sounds like a major development in that area, and seems as though India is getting ready for a major conflict to break out in that area and for the need of medical staff. So thank you for sharing that, Matthew, and a very interesting development to hear for sure. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Live Laugh Toaster Bath, who puts in a $31 donation. And thank you very much, Live Laugh Toaster, for that $31 support. And they said, "Good evening, enforcers. I haven't been able to catch lives as of late and loved the marathon stream yesterday. And it looks like a lot of heads of states have come down with the drone virus prior to the victory day with Putler. Haha, and LSA."
And that's a pretty good way of putting it. And long live the Lee Spring Army. And I'd have to agree, it does appear that a lot of people have come down with the coronavirus. That's a really good way of putting it. And they're just not going to be showing up, simply put. I would have to agree with you with that completely, Live, Laugh, Toaster Bath. And also, thank you for loving the marathon stream yesterday. It was a lot. Honestly, I still haven't gotten over the tiredness of doing that today. For me, that was mentally strenuous to be able to monologue for 5 hours straight. I've never done that before. The longest we've ever gone before that was 4 hours and 21 minutes, I believe, and that was an additional 40 minutes on top of that. And back then, it felt like 4 hours and 21 minutes was really pushing it, and 5 hours was definitely well beyond my limit. I probably can do 4 hours and 30 minutes. But a whole additional 30 minutes of having to think mentally quick as a whip and throw out answers on the spot and also monologue pretty much from scratch is a really tough thing to do for that long. But I'm glad to hear that you did enjoy it, because that makes it all the worthwhile to know that people really did enjoy that deal. And also, that stream is the 5th largest live stream that we've ever run in the history of the channel. There's only 5 other live streams that are a little bit bigger than it, and 2 of those are quite literally just 1,000 views apart from it. But beyond that, it's absolutely crazy to think that that many people are here watching the stream and enjoyed it so much that they also wanted to subscribe, because we have gotten a massive amount of subscribers today. We're actually up to 351,300 subscribers right now, and it's just an absolutely unbelievable kind of thing how many people have been joining this channel and supporting it and helping it to keep on running. And I got to thank you so much for being one of those people as well, Live, Laugh, Toaster Bath, and also throwing in some interesting appreciation, and I got to thank you greatly for that. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, at least in my opinion. And of course, long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next one. Also, Mary Deemer said, "I hope both countries are stocking up on potassium." They probably already have those stocks, because, of course, those two countries being ready to go to war with each other pretty much any moment, and also being nuclear armed, they probably have a bunch of potassium iodide on hand, I would imagine, but they have to actually get that handed out. So that's the next thing. If you see that being handed out, that might be a rough sign right there if you start seeing that being distributed to civilians. So that would be quite a telling bit of information there. But jumping on to our next post, our next super chat here. This one goes to, guess who? It is Marion Deemert, who I just mentioned a moment ago. And thank you very much, Marion, for that $30 support. And Marion said, "You both did a fine job yesterday, and thank you."
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words, Marion Deemer. And I would have to say, Matthew Mead did a great job yesterday. I'm very biased in that. I was one of the people involved. But Matthew did a great job yesterday, just speaking on his end. He was able to manage the live chat, manage gathering us breaking news, and a whole bunch of other things on top of that pretty seamlessly while I was monologuing the whole time, making sure that we had something to say on air. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying it, Marion Deemer, and supporting the channel today and helping it to keep on rolling. Because folks like you help to make this thing possible day in and day out, so that way we can have shining hours like those yesterday as we were covering the major outbreak of war in India. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Rye Guy SR, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Rye Guy, as well, for that support. And they said, "Evening, guys, and I hope y'all are well with being so busy. And do y'all think that the U.S. moving all those assets to the Middle East was never about the Houthis, but merely just practice for staging for Iran and LLT, LSA, LLTR, and Slav Ukraine?"
And long live the Lee Spring Army. And I'd actually have to say that I believe that it definitely was about striking the Islamic Republic of Iran the entire time. Moving all of those assets into the area makes absolutely no sense when we're speaking of the Houthis. But when we're speaking of Iran, that kind of a large proportion of assets being moved into the area would make a great deal of sense because the wide variety of targets, the geographical sparseness of those targets, pretty much the distance from each other, as well as the major ambitions or goals that our air campaign would have in Iran, I would say that that makes a lot more sense than all of that equipment being moved just to deal with the Houthis, because that would be prohibitively expensive and also really uncalled for on at least a strategic level to send that much equipment, considering that that is not just overkill, that is extreme overkill to the point it's really incomprehensible. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a super chat from none other than Flash1, another longtime channel legend who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Flash, as well, for that generous support. And he said, hello, enforcers. And do you think the U.S. fearless leader will go to Ukraine now that Xi Jinping is in Russia? And keep up the great work in LSA.
And thank you so much for the support. We will keep up the great work. And I'm not really sure on that one. I think that he may show up to Ukraine at some point in the future, but I don't think he has any plans or intentions of doing that right now. I also think that still the relationship between the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine is a little bit uneasy, even still. So for that reason, I'm sure that neither are really that apt to travel to the other and meet them. I think the meeting in the Vatican was pretty much the closest that they could get to just being in a neutral ground and speaking about things frankly, rather than going out of their way to make an official state visit to each other. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Con LSA, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Con, for that $20 support as well. They said, that is what I said last night, guys. India will lose planes, and India will lose a lot. I have no favorites. I don't like either one of them, and I know the region. And Pakistan will defeat the Indian army into dirt. It's just fact.
Thank you so much for the support, Con. And I'm gonna withhold judgment. It may turn around, and the Indians may be on top of things, or this may be a sign of things to come for them for months at this point. If this turns into a full-scale conventional war, not entirely sure on that yet. But one thing I can say though is that their performance was very poor so far. So poor that it is honestly shocking. We haven't heard of those kinds of fixed-wing aircraft losses at the opening of any conflict so far while covering the news on this channel, and it was so unheard of that we just believed it was completely untrue and entirely propaganda that Pakistan was putting out instantly at that point, because we were like, there is no way that they lost that many aircraft literally within an hour of this entire thing kicking off. That would be absolutely absurd. And crazily enough, they actually did. So I would have to say, you might have actually been right on that one. I'm still withholding judgment, but it looks like you may have actually been correct. I'll be honest. For a strategic interest, the U.S. will probably support India, but to be honest, I really don't get behind either of them either, because, like, once again, I've explained this a little bit, because whenever we have dealings with people, one thing I found is that Ukrainian people are very nice, and they're always looking for people to understand their side, especially at the beginning, and nowadays it's a little bit more militant, because, you know, the war's been going on, a lot of people have been radicalized because of it, but that's just how wars work. But beyond that, Ukrainians were always sympathetic, and they were always wanting people to understand their side. The same, honestly, with the Israelis and the people who were kind of pro-proxy or pro-Iranian. At least at the start, before they really knew where our channel lied, they would, where our channel loyalties lie, which is in American and Western interests, everyone would try and explain their side and why it makes sense, and a lot of them would come in with a reasonable approach. So far, between India and Pakistan, I have seen seldom few Indian or Pakistani people come onto the show and actually try and have us side with them, or try and reason with us to side with them. I have not actually seen a reasonable person, a reasonable Pakistani or Indian person, come onto this show. There are some, but I mean, when I'm saying some, it's literally like a few out of hundreds in between yesterday and today. And it really has made it to where, and of course I don't put personal bias into strategic decision making. Of course the US would support India in this sort of a deal, but beyond that, to me personally, I'm not really that heavily invested in the whole, you know, being pro-Indian thing, because we have gotten shat on for 36 hours now by Indian people coming onto this show, because when they come on, they don't hear hear that, you know, the whatever, the Bonchor or whatever in Pakistan has been destroyed and we've won the war. You know, like, they're not hearing that. So they get pissed off because they're hearing the reality of what happened, which is that, yes, they did hit their targets, but they also ended up losing a large amount of aircraft. And then they want to act pissed off that we're telling the reality of the situation, that, yeah, India did hit their targets, but at the same time, they also had their aircraft shot down. So it wasn't really a win-win across the board.
Yeah, true that.
And so I thought you were saying something there. I was thinking, does he want to say breaking news? But beyond that, I do hope that does address that well, Con. I think he wants to give her support and help with this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would never be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, Surprise It's Us, I think, has it nailed right. They said those people are trolls. Honestly, I think it goes even deeper than that. I think those people are probably most likely fake bot accounts, like actual legitimate bot accounts that are programmed to say certain things and to get certain reactions, and pretty much go out there and dispel anything that might say that India's losing, or for the Pakistani side, they're going to say that Pakistan's not losing either. And pretty much every country has that. And they're just looking to bait reactions, basically to try to confuse the situation. But anyways, jumping into our next super chat here. This one is going to go to none other than Duncan VR, who puts in a $25 donation Australian.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Duncan, for that $25 support. And he says, and he has the animal noises tonight, so get ready for this. This is the animal noises. He said, Baba Moo. Matt, you don't know code for hello is Baba Moo. I forgot. I'm sorry. He said, what is the difference in the aircraft used in India and Pakistan, and how many fighters do each country have, and what type of jets? And Moo Quack, a real question. Baba oink oink.
And thank you so much for the animal noises, Duncan VR, a tradition of the Lee Spring Army. And to answer your actual question, the difference between India and Pakistan is that Pakistan has about half of the amount of combat aircraft that India has. India has, at least on paper, a far more advanced Air Force, and funnily enough, Pakistan generally has an aging Air Force. About half of their Air Force is early third-generation aircraft, while pretty much most, if not all, of India's Air Force is either third-generation plus, so on the very cusp of being a fourth-generation aircraft, or they are fairly advanced fourth-generational aircraft. So at least in terms of the quality of the aircraft and the size of the Air Force, India should win hands down in an air confrontation. But last night showed something completely different, and actually showed that Pakistan struck back and actually inflicted significant losses onto the Indian Air Force in just the opening hours. So with that in mind, I would have to say that that's really the best rundown that I could give. And also to give you an idea of the size of the Indian Air Force, they have about 580 operational combat aircraft, and Pakistan has about, I think it's 270 or 250 or so, somewhere around there. But beyond that, I hope that does address that. Well, also let me show you. I guess I'll show you some of their indigenous aircraft, because Pakistan uses their non-indigenous aircraft, which are J-10s from China, and F-16s, which, you know, of course, Ukraine uses. And India's non-indigenous aircraft consist of the Rafale, as well as the Su-30 MKI and the MiG-29 as their main aircraft. But the Indians have the Tejas aircraft, and let me go pull that up. So it is a Delta wing aircraft. It's a fairly interesting looking one, actually. I think it's really neat. But it's more of a closer in dogfighting aircraft. It can carry semi-active radar homing missiles, but generally it appears that its loadout primarily consists of infrared homing missiles, such as like AIM-9s or something comparable. The Pakistanis have their own indigenous built aircraft, which is also a joint Chinese venture, although the Chinese don't even field any of these aircraft, which is the JF-17 Thunder, which is a very small aircraft. It's actually very, very small. It's slightly smaller than an F-16, actually. But it's comparable in its abilities to an F-16. And to give you all an idea of how small the JF-17 really is, let me go see if I can get a combat loadout on this thing in a picture, so you can get an idea of just how tiny these things are. So, that's not really a good example. I'm trying to see if I can get one with the weapons mounted on the pylons. Eventually, they'll have a picture of that, right? No, they won't. So let's go over here. So this is the JF-17 equipped with air-to-air missiles and also some air-to-ground ordnance as well. But y'all can tell right here that what are PL-12s, which is the Chinese ripoff of the AIM-120, they are massive on this thing. To give you all an idea of how big these missiles are, well, how small the aircraft is compared to the missiles, these are about the same size missiles on an F-16 versus a JF-17. So it is actually a somewhat smaller aircraft by all measures in the modern day. I would actually say it's comparable to being about the size of a Gripen from the Saab company in Sweden. That would be about the best thing I can compare it to in size and ability. But those are the aircraft that the both sides have. At least they're more advanced ones. But also Pakistan operates an older fleet of the Mirage 3s, which are these aircraft here, which originally first entered service in 1961 with France, just to give you an idea of how old these are. And that makes up about, if we're looking at just the Mirage class, or really every variant of the Mirage 3 that's currently in service in Pakistan, that makes up about 40% of their entire operational combat aircraft fleet. So it's a pretty aging, ancient force of aircraft that Pakistan has, although they do have some pretty modern F-16s, JF-17s, and J-10s, but J-10s are in a wildly limited number. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can, Duncan VR, and I hope I was able to answer a legitimate question, because you rarely ever ask those. You usually just throw in animal noises to get Matthew to do animal noises on air, but I hope I was able to answer that question well, because it was actually a really good one. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Pkaistani, who puts in a $20 donation as well. And thank you very much, Pkaistani, for that $20 support. He said, "Good day, enforcers. And my question relates to China's involvement in Pakistan and India conflict and how this will play into the CCP's current agenda for the region, and unconfirmed reports of CCP willing to align with Pakistan against India. And what say you?"
Thank you so much for the support. And those aren't actually unconfirmed reports. Those are confirmed reports. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has stated that the People's Republic of China fully supports Pakistan and the defense of their sovereignty. But as far as what we've seen so far with the People's Republic of China, they have not made an official statement within 36 hours of the outbreak of conflict that actually shows real support for Pakistan. So I think it was more so rhetoric than anything, because China might not really want to put themselves out there and go to war with India, because if they did, they're going to be pushing the Indians closer to the United States faster than ever, which would be counterintuitive for them. It wouldn't really achieve any of the goals that they're looking for. So in my opinion, I'd say that they're probably going to stay out of this, but still support Pakistan with thoughts and prayers, and possibly some limited material support as well, but nothing major. I don't think the Chinese are going to join this conflict as an active third-party belligerent on the side of Pakistan. I don't think that will be happening. I think they're largely just going to stay back and either morally support Pakistan or maybe support them with some materials, but that'll be about it. And so with that, I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible and keep it running. And so with that, I hope that has addressed that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Neil Visanon, who puts in a 20 as well. And it's good to see you once again, Neil. And thank you very much for that support once more. And he says, "I'm back." He said, also, fun fact, Operation Sindoor is the name of a military operation of the Empire in Disney's Star Wars canon. And can we get an open betting pool on India getting sued by the mouse?
And I thank you so much for the support. And what was that supposed to be, the mouse?
No, that was just me laughing.
Oh.
That was not supposed to be the mouse.
I thought that was supposed to be like the Disney attorneys, like right there. Honestly, I was like, but honestly, man, Disney attorneys would laugh like this. You know, that's like getting like the lawsuit ready. But
what, you got Tourette's or something?
You know what? But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say that is actually interesting. I didn't know that, but I have a feeling that the Disney cease and desist attorneys may be firing up the private jet and making their way on over there. So it may be highly likely or possible that that's actually happening. It's a little bit hard to tell at this moment, but Disney is a power unto itself. The way they're able to make bombs these days, one after the other, I don't know how they do it. It's like an absolute miracle. They can make a blockbuster bomb more so than any other. I mean, I've never seen a studio flop so many movies in a row, and it's a pretty simple formula not to flop a movie. You just make it a good movie, and they keep making pretty crappy movies, like, and they just keep not learning. I don't really know what's up with that anymore. It's almost like they're trying to fail as a movie producing company, because there are a lot of companies out there that are not doing that, and they're succeeding, and then they aren't. And you would just think they'd learn at this point. So their power is kind of waning a little bit for that reason. But beyond that, they probably still have the jets firing up. This might be their last shot at it, or of getting a little bit of power. So maybe. But with that, I hope that does address that well. I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, Cody Fritz said Disney should start arming Ukraine. Man, Disney could create a paramilitary if they wanted to. Like, they could create a paramilitary, get the people working at Walt Disney World who do they won't point with their finger. They have to do two-finger pointing, because otherwise, if you point with one finger, that's highly offensive. Don't do that. But they could send out the Imagineers to Imagineer a new weapon for the Ukrainians. That might be quite interesting, actually. A little holodeck for training the soldiers or something, or maybe a new bomb for Ukraine to use on the Russians. Maybe so. But I have a feeling that the mouse would not like that. I have a feeling that the mouse is adverse. Whoa, wait a minute. Adverse? You said making money. Let's make a weapon. Honestly, though, as long as the mouse is making money, he might be in for it. So I don't know.
Man, you know why they tell the Disney employees to point with their full hand or just two fingers? You know why they tell them that?
Because they don't want to get sued when they accidentally poke somebody in the eye that's walking by?
No. Actually, it's because Walt Disney was a chain smoker. So pretty much every single picture that he had a cigar in his hand. So later on, because Disney doesn't like to, face reality, they airbrushed the cigars and cigarettes out of his hands. So then you would just see these weird hand gestures where he was like pointing at something with two fingers, but the reality was that he was pointing at something while having a cigarette between his two fingers. So Disney came up with this whole BS thing that Walt Disney did that because he was being polite, because pointing with one finger is rude, so he would point with two. So then they told all of the cast members, you can never point with one finger, which is totally normal. You have to point with two because it's quote-unquote polite. So literally just rewriting history and the rules of manners to disguise that Walt Disney was a chain smoker. Which honestly, it's like, he was a chain smoker. It's like, okay, it's like, sure. It's like, like I don't think anyone realizes this. I don't think the Disney company realizes this. But if y'all ever watch an old Disney movie from like when Walt Disney actually ran the company, like Pinocchio or Dumbo or hell, any of those other movies, someone was smoking in there somewhere. I mean, like Pinocchio was smoking a cigar on Pleasure Island. They were smoking cigars there, and let's see who else was smoking. Let's see, in Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, someone was smoking, and what's the name of that? Alice in Wonderland. That caterpillar was absolutely smoking weed. Like, there's no doubt about that one. And then there was let's see here. There was another movie that I just mentioned a second ago, but there was smoking in that one too. And it's like, well, in old Disney movies, there's quite clearly smoking. So why in the world do we have to act like Walt Disney never smoked, considering that a lot of the classic cartoon characters do? It's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Also, by the way, another thing that Walt Disney apparently was very adverse to, at least according to what I've heard through the grapevine, is he did not want anybody recording the phone calls. Because if y'all didn't know, and I made that part up, but the true part about the story, the little joke I was about to make, is Walt Disney actually was an FBI informant for like a couple of decades, actually. And it was only revealed, I think, after he died, that he was a full special agent in charge contact. Which is a pretty good title there in the FBI. So Disney was in with the feds. Like, he was well in with the feds, apparently. And they have a whole file on the FBI's website of him.
Man, that's crazy. So what did he do for the FBI?
I can't remember for certain, but I think if I have to remember, Disney was actually, well, let me actually click on it and look real quick first, because I don't want to say something that's not true. Let's see here. I'm looking.
You're scared
at
of the Disney
FBI
attorneys
file.
if you're saying something untrue. Oh, we got him now, boys. Get the jet. And then they fly straight up to Birmingham.
So it looks like, based on what I'm reading here, there was some program or something they were trying to get Walt Disney involved in to spread some information for a good cause, I believe. And I'm not going to say what the good cause is. Well, he was spreading information for a good cause. Let me go double check here.
Those damn communists. That could only be the other one, man. It's either World War II or it's the communists.
So it's saying that Disney, let's see here. Come on, just get to the piece of the part of the story I'm trying to look for.
Oh, hold up. No. I know what it is. The House Un-American Committee. Oh my God, I just realized the strike at Burbank. The strike at Burbank that happened way back in like the late 30s, and he got freaking pissed. That must have been when he turned into a rat, Matthew. He was working for the feds. He was working for the feds.
Also, Justin Ritchie said, yeah, they're trying to get him to distribute child abuse posters. That was one thing that they were trying to get him to do. Also, it says here in a Euro News article, it says a 1941's animator strike resulted in Disney labeling many of the animators as communists from the HCUA. And Disney even let FBI director Edgar Hoover to lend his creative ideas to some of the projects. And in return, Disney was allowed to film on FBI premises, as well as ensuring his continued protection from the then McCarthy estate. Disney was made in 1954, which is about 10, 15 years later, a special agent in charge contact and remained an FBI informant. So apparently it was what you just said.
Dude, it all started coming to me, man. I was like, wait a minute. He had that strike that happened in Burbank and he got pissed off with him. And then, I was like, dude, that was like the perfect thing because that was when the House Un-American Committee was like all the rage. Before McCarthy even popped up, he was like, oh, these people are communists. Like anyone who just didn't want to work for him, like on crappy pay, they were a communist. So he would have Edgar Hoover stuck on him. Now I remember that all. Like it all came back to me. And so I remember, man, that he was constantly roaming around Hollywood and also his studio looking for anyone who might just complain about, gee, I'd like to get some more pay. And then he would go and rat on them as commies. Like I remember that now. He would have people's careers destroyed, dude. Like I remember that now. Dude, honestly, man, Disney was vicious. Honestly, he was kind of a bit of a shit. Like when you really like look at some of the stuff he would do, because like the voice actor for Snow White was never able to get another job because he ensured that woman was blacklisted, so that way no one else could have the voice of Snow White in any other movie forever. So that woman literally lived destitute for the rest of her life beyond the small amount of money that she was paid to voice Snow White, and never got another job again in Hollywood.
Wow, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, man, it's kind of like the whole Wizard of Oz movie production thing, where they like covered the Tin Man in lead paint, and he was inhaling that all day, and then he got like severe lung damage and died like 10 or 15 years after that from that. And then let's see here, the guy, the lion dude, like the cowardly lion guy in the Wizard of Oz. This isn't a Disney thing. This is like early Hollywood stuff, and they were really messing with people back then. But he was wearing like an all rubber suit all day under those giant hot lights, because back then, they didn't have like the LEDs. They just had those lights that literally emitted as much heat as they did light. So he was under like 110-degree lamps in full rubber suits. And they said that it did a lot of damage to his skin. Like his skin was permanently sagging after the movie from the weight of the rubber that they literally glue right onto his like body. Like, there was a whole bunch of stuff, dude. Like, they would actually work those people on the Wizard of Oz movie, dude, like 20 hours a day. And then at the end of the workday, they would give them a sleeping pill, and then they'd wake them up with, not kidding, cocaine, and then get them back to work.
That's crazy, man, honestly.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, I saw someone mention something else while we're on the topic and we're on this rabbit hole right here. Terabad said Disney needs to restart Pixar. Honestly, like they really should. Like, I'm not sure if Pixar is actually out of business, but Pixar needs to go back to making the movies they used to make. And also, if y'all didn't know, by the way, Pixar was actually co-founded by Steve Jobs, who's the Apple founder, which is something that most people actually don't know. And they acquired the original company that turned into Pixar from George Lucas's Lucasfilm, which made Star Wars. So kind of fascinating. But Pixar and Disney was a hell of a combo back when they used to make legitimate good animated movies together. That was some of the best Disney movies that ever came out, was the ones that Pixar and Disney worked on.
Yeah, honestly, man, Pixar movies were really good. Like in the 3D animated world, Disney dominated in the 2D animation world, but Pixar was really the one that dominated in 3D animation. And also, I just saw Jack Jelly say that the Tin Man actor was Buddy Ebsen. Buddy Ebsen was the first one. He actually got fired, and then they had to go reshoot everything with a different Tin Man. And it's the other Tin Man that I'm talking about. The other Tin Man didn't pretty much go through with he went through with the abuse, unlike the other guy who quit, Buddy Ebsen. And so the other guy who came in and actually finished the movie, he was the one who actually ended up getting screwed because he just kept going with it. So a little bit of an interesting one with that, because I remember watching a YouTube documentary on it, and they were talking about that movie because the whole story behind that movie is absolutely terrible. But if y'all want to know another story, a Disney story that is great, this one is brilliant. So, Matthew, when they released Pinocchio, I think it was the second movie after Snow White. So it was the second feature-length animated movie pretty much ever made. So it was a pretty big deal, and it was riding on the success of Snow White, which came right before it. So Walt Disney at the premiere, I think this was in Los Angeles, at the premiere, he hired a bunch of midgets. I'm not kidding. They were like dwarves and midgets and stuff to sit up on top of the opening to the theater, and they were all dressed up like Pinocchio, and they would wave to people and stuff as they were going in. So some idiot decided that the best thing to do would be to give these guys some cheese and wine, like bottles of wine sitting up there, dude, and just blocks of cheese, so that way they could just sit up there all day and just wave at people. So obviously these midgets got drunk, and they started stripping and getting butt naked up there, and started like mooning people and stuff as they were trying to go into the theater, and nobody could get them down because nobody could get up there because you had to get a ladder out to get them. So it was just absolute chaos, and like these they just couldn't get the midgets off the roof, so they just kept on trying to bring out the cops, and they would try and go up there, and like these midgets were busting the wine bottles over the cops' heads when they would get high up enough on the ladder. It was just absolute chaos. So the second day of the premiere, they didn't bring the midgets back. Like, the midgets weren't back. They didn't get the bottles of wine and the blocks of cheese. They didn't do any of that. They just didn't bring the midgets. But that was the whole story.
That sounds like an awful one. You don't know who to propose that in the first place. It sounds freaking god awful.
Disney himself was the guy who was like, why don't we put midgets up there? And then some other idiot was like, yeah, let's give them loads of wine and cheese, and they'll just sit up there all day. It's like, anyone would have thought
wine and cheese. Why?
Bro, it's like they're not up there to have charcuterie. Why? It's like, I don't know. I have no clue.
It's dude. Like, why give them something so sophisticated? Like, let's not give them like a bag of goldfish and like some water or something like that. Let's give them wine and cheese.
Bro, let me go see if I can find you. Oh my god, dude! Here they are before they started stripping. There's a picture of them. No joke, right here. Look, there's all the Pinocchio midgets right there. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's a real thing, people. Like, I'm not even lying about this. This actually happened. Like, that actually happened.
That's so bad.
Oh my god. And they left them up there, dude. There was no way to get up there without a ladder. So they were pretty much, dude, they had a free reign the whole day to moon people, to cuss at them. Bro, they started throwing stuff at people at some point. Like, it was a whole deal. It was a whole deal. Like, I just get such a laugh, dude, thinking about that, because everyone always thinks, oh yeah, the 1940s is good times. So you're dressed up, right, with your girl, so you're in like a 3-piece suit because that was normal for the era. Nice hat, your girl's in like a nice dress and everything. You go to this theater to go watch Pinocchio because it sounds nuts. It's a whole animated feature film like Snow White, and that was great. So you go there, and then you see a whole bunch of drunk, naked midgets sitting on the roof, throwing shit at you, cussing at you, and mooning you as you're trying to get into the theater. Like, that is just, nothing will beat that. Nothing will beat that. Like, that, honestly, dude, early Disney was a wild, dude, you should have heard, man, what happened. Oh my god, you should have heard. Wait a minute, let me go see if I can find this place. It's up in San Francisco somewhere. Where the hell is it? It's like an old country club turned prison. Someone help me out in the chat. I'm sure you... Wait a minute. It's somewhere around here, isn't it? No, it's not. This is actually the old Walt Disney Animation Studio area around here at Burbank. Crazily enough, that's it.
Yeah, I think it's where they have, the Imagineers or something like in the modern day.
Well, that's actually where that strike happened, dude, where Walt Disney became an FBI informant and started calling all these guys commies. It happened right here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he built this place, dude. He actually had this whole place built because his plan was to pretty much turn Disney into a company town, which the workers did not like, and that's why they started striking. I think it was like in 1936 or something. But dude, it was a crazy thing because he got so pissed off one time, he got out of his car, dude, charged at the strikers, and like had his fist balled up. He was about to beat the shit out of them. And then like somewhere as he was running towards him, he's like, wait a minute, I really can't do that. That wouldn't look good. So he started smiling, laughing, and then pretended like he was gonna punch him, and then just started laughing. Ha ha, that was funny, wasn't it? Looked like I was really gonna beat Shell's asses, right? It's like, and then everyone was like, yeah, you pretty much were. And he's like, oh, screw you people. And then he got back in his car and left. I was like, dude, let's see. Someone's got to bring up the hotel I'm talking about, though, because there was a time where he had like all of his employees. This was actually before the strike. He was like, good job, everyone. It was right after Snow White. And he brought them to some country club that was around San Francisco at the time. And everyone got drunk, and someone stole a horse from a nearby stable, and they started riding it through the halls of the hotel that he had rented, like this country club thing that he rented out. and then another guy started hanging off of a chandelier. Like, it was on, dude, it was literally like, Punch Island, you know, it's like that, but in real life, and it was at the country club. I wish I could find that story, because, you know, they, like, Disney, the company, whitewashes the story of their company, but if you actually hear, like, the real history behind it, there was a lot of crazy stuff that would happen at the inception of the Walt Disney kind of corporation deal. So kind of a little bit funny with that one. But anyways,
also, side note, I would love to see San Francisco, by the way, like the whole like Silicon Valley area and stuff like that. I'd like to see that eventually sometime.
Yeah, that'd be, honestly, man, I'd like to see San Francisco as a whole, because, you know, it's a really cool city. It's got a neat history to it. I know a lot of people are gonna be, oh, San Francisco sucks. Look, I don't know. I haven't been there, and honestly, a lot of the hype talks really it's hype talk, really like dissing on a city that isn't that bad. So, you know, unless if I go there and it's absolutely terrible, like Portland. Portland was pretty rough, but San Francisco, you know, I'm sure it's not that bad. Like, look at this. That looks great. Look at that.
That probably look pretty good, honestly. I would like to see it just to see it, and I'd like to see the whole area. Like, I don't know why, I've always had like a fascination with Silicon Valley, like the area around, like you know, where Stanford University is and stuff like that, down toward that area. I've always had a fascination with it for whatever reason. I've always kind of like glorified it in my mind. It looks good on Google Maps, so I'd like to see it in person, like know if that's actually the truth or not. But you know, I'd like to see this.
Yeah, actually, this does look pretty nice. Like, I'm not really seeing anything incredibly bad here, honestly. It looks like any normal city, really. Like, you know, a city's a city, folks. You know, it has its pluses and minuses, kind of a double-edged sword sort of a thing. But also, I saw someone say Disney was like the Wolf of Wall Street. Disney kind of was, but he kind of wasn't at the same time. Like, because one thing that I find really stupid is that he was like, oh, you know, we have to run our animation studio. So there would be the artist, Matthew, that would like draw up like the frames of the cells, you know, like on like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and stuff. So they would draw up like the frames, and then there was these people called the ink and paint ladies, which would do like all of the ink and the paint on the actual cells. So they were the ones who actually gave them like all of their color and everything, you know, beyond like their main outline and stuff. So Walt Disney was like, oh, hey, look, that one's hot, and then married one of them, you know. So then after he married one of the ink and paint ladies, Matthew, you know what he did next?
What?
New rule, everyone. No one working here can date or marry any of the ink and paint ladies. If you do, you're fired. And so it's like, what the hell? It's like, so wait a minute, he did that, and then he made it wrong for everyone else. So anyways, basically everyone dated and married the ink and paint ladies anyways, and he either had an option of firing everyone or not. So that was also one of the other things that caused him some strife, and that's why he made Disney Village, which is a little bit of an interesting thing. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention that after well, actually, I won't mention that one. I don't know how much people want to hear that one, but there's always been wild stuff going on in the early days of Disney. And also someone said Walt Disney was a chain smoker. Oh, hell yeah, he could chuff hard. Like, he was chuffing so bad he makes the vapors these days look weak with the amount of smoke he was putting out. It was crazy. But anyways, with that, hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next super chat goes to Jose Diaz, another longtime channel legend, and he puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Jose, for that support once again, and it's good to see you. He said the Enforcer channel is #1, and as a Puerto Rican, a proud U.S. citizen and U.S. Marine, also thank you for your service. He said, I am very proud of the Enforcer brothers' knowledge, creativity, and integrity, and El Say forever.
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words, Jose Diaz, and the huge support. And I got to thank you for saying the Enforcer channel is #1. I think at this point, approximately 351,323 people would agree with you, I believe, hopefully. And I gotta say, thank you so much for the kind words. And also, it's great to hear that as a Puerto Rican and proud American citizen and a former, and a retired, I believe, U.S. Marine, I'm not entirely sure on that one, that you're proud of the Enforcer channel. I got to thank you greatly for that. And of course, long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And Matthew, Gulf of Matt, just put it in for me. The Norconian Resort.
The Draconian Resort.
Hold up. I think this is it. Yes, it is, because it's a prison now. Oh my God, it was actually near LA. I was in the wrong place. This is it. This is the place. It's a prison now, but back in the day, it was a really upstanding country club, but that's what it looks like now.
Man, put me in prison right now, man. This is looking nice.
Man, put me in prison.
Man, lock me up.
I think it was like some sort of like a higher, like a lower security kind of a federal prison thing for a while, because the country club fell on hard times and pretty much caved in. So the federal government, of course, bought it, kind of like Mar-a-Lago. And then they're like, "Gee, what do we do with it? Turn it into a prison." And so that's what they did. But at some point, dude, somewhere in, is that a freaking gun?
Yeah, it looks like a pistol.
Bro, this man firing some caps. Like, it's like, bro, what's going on here? Also, this is where Disney would, he would, interrogate the communists.
What the hell is that?
I actually don't know. It looks like some sort of a medical room, possibly like a sick bay sort of a thing for the prison, maybe.
Huh, that's, yeah, it looks like either a drafting table or it could be maybe a x-ray table or maybe like could be a waterboard and there's no telling. Oh, that room looks horrifying. Look at that checkerboard junk.
Yeah, dude, it really does look terrifying. Actually, the view is really impressive there.
Where is this again?
This is just right outside of LA, man. This is near to, actually, this is about halfway between LA and San Bernardino.
Yeah, those mountains in the background look crazy behind that thing. I like that.
Yeah, the Mount San Antonio and Mount Baldy and Timber Mountain looks to be the ones that were in the picture back there. But that's pretty, does it look like that on the ground? Like, can you see those mountains from here? Oh, shoot, you can. They're back there.
Oh, you sure can. Look at that. That's crazy.
Oh, and look, this is the Naval Surface Warfare Center. Oh, that's what it turned into. It went from being a prison to a service. Oh, hold up. I'm not really sure about that. Yeah, it looks like it's now a naval base and not a prison. Or maybe this still is a prison. It kind of looks like it could be.
Also, someone took me serious in the live chat. I said, "Y'all say that now that you want to go to prison." Oh, whoa! They've seen something terrible in prison. Actually, it's described right there. I won't read that out loud. They said prison sucks. No, I wasn't actually serious about going to prison. I'm just lying. Like, I'm not actually trying to get put up in here no matter how nice it looks.
Man, I just lie. It's like, bro, it's like no one wants to go to prison. Anyone saying that's just kidding. But that actually is wildly impressive looking. I mean, even for this building to be like run down these days, that's actually really cool.
Man, that view back there is crazy. Like that's a nice view.
Man, what a nice, and look at that cute dog.
I don't know if it's cute. That dog looks sketchy. I'm not going to lie.
Bro, that dog kind of looks like it's wanting to be the next Cujo. But somewhere, man, back in the day, some guy who was working at Disney was riding a horse drunk as hell through these halls. And I think he even jumped the horse off of, like, the second floor or something like that on a balcony somewhere. If I'm remembering the story right, and of course, I might be wrong, but there was a lot of crazy stuff that they did here on that day. And Disney started to look at his employees differently. He started to look at them as possibly commie sympathizers. But anyways, I hope we addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jenna, last name Tolls, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Jenna, as well for that support. And we appreciate you very much. And Jenna said, a channel that can take a joke and serious news, but I'd rather laugh than cry. And this parade is going to be explosive.
And I agree. This parade's going to be fairly explosive, genitals. And I thank you so much once again for appreciating that we can take a joke. We try our best to make sure that we do joke and take jokes. And I hope that we show through again tonight while everything's been going on all around the world, because a lot's happening these days. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Azem, who puts in a $20 donation also. And thank you very much, Azem, for that 20. Excuse me. Goodness, but I choked. But Azem put in the 20 and said, do you think Russia will attack foreign, let's see here, foreign companies? Well, listen, I think there was some autocorrect errors in this one. I'm going to read it how it is, but I'm not sure how to interpret it. They said, do you think Russia will attack foreign companies working under U.S. president, even onomatopoeia deal with Ukraine?
I thank you so much for the support. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can answer that question because it sounds like it may be well above my pay grade. But I do thank you massively for the support and help this channel to keep on running onomatopoeia. And with that, we are on to the next one. But huge thanks to you so much once again.
Also, Zem, if that was the autocorrect, send us a clarification. Just tag my name at Enforcer Matt, and I will reread it once again. But I'm not sure where the onomatopoeia part comes in on this one. I think it's hard to understand. But the next one here goes to Matthew L. Anson, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you, Matthew, for that $10 support. And did not leave a comment. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support, Matthew, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for both of y'all, this Matthew here and that Matthew there, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. And so huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, someone said that must not be the real Matt since he's talking at the same time and typing. No, I actually talk and type at the same time. So that's actually me in the live chat that was just talking a moment ago. So yeah, I can do both. Sometimes that's why I stutter, and sometimes that's why I take a second and pause because I'm actually typing and finishing typing. So anyways, we're now moving on to our next one here, which goes to Purple Gerbil, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Purple Gerbil, for that 10. And Mr. Gerbil said, get some root beers and please take a live chat and LSA forever.
Hey, thank you so much for support. We will get some root beers, hopefully soon. I'm a big fan of root beers. I like them. And I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running and making it possible for us to have a root beer and keep the roof over our heads nice and firm. We had like a typhoon amount of wind come through last night. It was like gale force winds. And the whole building was rocking and shaking and the winds were howling and whistling. And then I heard it go, whoa, look at that. And then I went, oh man, it's out there whistling. That's just beyond that. I do thank you for support because folks like you help us to keep that roof over our heads so that way the wind isn't in here whistling on us. And so huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
Also, returning back to his Zim's $20 super chat, they were a victim of autocorrect and did a number on the super chat because it was all over the place. The autocorrect got it good, but they meant to say, do you think that Russia will attack foreign companies working under the U.S. president's rare mineral deal and economic plan with Ukraine?
I would say it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. They will consider it possibly a Ukrainian strategic target either way, even if it has an American company behind it. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that might happen. I would say if I had to give a percentage chance, I'd actually say that there's a higher percentage than not that they probably would end up hitting those U.S. interests. I'd say about 60% possibly as a chance. And also, I was not laughing at the super chat. I was laughing at Matthew reading it because he was sitting there. He's like, oh, will these companies onomatopoeia? I was like, oh my god.
It said onomatopoeia. Like it actually said that like word. It autocorrected to onomatopoeia.
Man, that was one hell of a butchering that autocorrected on that one, man. That was actually hilarious. But beyond that, I hope that does address the question well, autocorrect or not. And I thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to AMX10's Speedy Bang Bang, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, AMX10, for the support. They said, was there something about an Oreshnik missile threat on Kyiv?
Yes, there was. They are threatening an Oreshnik missile strike on Kyiv if Ukraine hits the May 9th Victory Day parade. So yes, there has been a threat on that currently. And so with that, I thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Brian Gonzalez, who said, puts in a 10, first of all. And Brian said, Fox codes, their tech jargon for Gen missile kind, keeps track of missile count and warnings to allies. F1, pilot needs to stay locked. F2 is lock, fire, and forget. And F3, no lock, fire in general direction.
And thank you for the support and sharing that with me. I didn't know that. I got the Fox designation, the Fox number designations mixed up because I haven't talked about that for a long time in depth. Usually I say them by their names, which would be radar homing missile, which would be a Fox 1. A Fox 2 would be a semi-active radar homing missile, which would, of course, be the fire and forget version. And then the Fox 3s are your dogfighting missiles like the AIM-9s, which are infrared. And usually in the modern day, they're all aspects, so you don't have to be behind the aircraft to pick up the heat of the exhaust. You can actually pick up the heat signature of the aircraft even from a head-on aspect. I didn't know that. It's just unfortunately I misquoted that earlier, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, you got it wrong," and I did. I said to someone, a couple of people in the chat, I was like, "Oops, I did get that wrong," and then some people were still wanting to hammer me. But I do thank you for the support and sharing that information because that actually is correct, and I misquoted it earlier. But still, huge thanks once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Con LSA once again, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Con, for the second support of the night. He said, you guys don't know the region. There is so much ganja and hashish use in the Indian army. They have no chance whatsoever.
Thank you for the support, and that might be true. I actually don't know the region too well. I'll be honest with y'all, folks. I know a great deal about East Asia, the Middle East, Europe, North America, and even South America. But places that I don't really know a lot of information, and I'll be entirely honest, it's not really even in my realm of interest to learn a lot. is about the Indian subcontinent and most of Africa, unless if it is South Africa, Nigeria, or somewhere in North Africa. Those are the only areas that I really care to learn any history about them, or at least any details, because I don't know, like, there's no reason like for me to do I just don't find them interesting, really, like, to just be honest. The Middle East is really interesting, really in depth, and really nuanced, whether people want to think that or not. And so is South America in its own way, and Central America, and all of North America, really. And so is East Asia and Europe and everything else, really. But those areas, I don't know, they just don't really strike me as wildly interesting to research and study them. Because I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you have to really look at the ancient stuff. I'm not really one for the ancients, like really anywhere. Like, I cannot really tell you about ancient Middle Eastern history that much, or even ancient history in Europe. I mean, I could give you some groundwork details on, say, the Greek city-states or the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire, but I wouldn't really be able to give you the in-depth history of all of their emperors, their leaders, the different campaigns of expansion that they were able to conduct. I can give you the bare basics of that, but when someone has to tell me that you have to look back in quite literally the BC era to find something historically interesting about an area, that's kind of where I kind of like shut off, because that is so far back in time. Really nothing from that era of history really applies today, because so much has evolved. So really, like, as far as the historical significance of a place like India and Pakistan, their historical significance really only existed in the ancient era, or really from about I would say about the 1300s onwards, as a significant part of world history. And then that's about the same with Africa as well, in most areas, except for areas like Nigeria, North Africa, as well as South Africa, because they actually have had a decent amount of storied history throughout most of their nation's histories, and it's fairly interesting to learn and research about it. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But that's also why I would have to say, Con, I really don't know a lot about that corner of the world, because it's not really one that really gets my interest a great deal. It's pretty much every other corner of the world except for that one and the other. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that at least the best I can, in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Whiskey53, who puts in a 10, and big shout out to Whiskey for that support. They said, I track Iranian military aircraft fly in and land in India, and are India and Iran friends, and would Iran and India fight for each other?
I would say that Iran and India probably are not friends. I really don't know a lot about the diplomatic standing with each other. At least in my knowledge, so I wouldn't really be able to tell you if Iran and India are friends. I largely know that they're probably not, at least from my assumption. They're probably on indifferent terms, but they're not allies, if I could put it that way. That's probably the best way I would be able to summarize the relationship, and once again, I'd have to look into that a little bit more. But beyond that, I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, also, I saw Cody Fritz say in the live chat, there are some awesome podcasts like The Fall of Civilizations to fall asleep to. I've looked into those, and I've listened to them a good bit. I actually read books a lot these days. Podcasts are good, but generally books are really interesting to me, because the amount of depth that they can get into is really, really deep, even compared to a podcast. And podcasts can actually get into a lot. Podcasts are some of really the most informative medium I think exists out there on the internet, is as far as something that you can listen to. Kind of like our show. It's pretty much a podcast in its own way. But the thing I like the most is reading books, because reading books, podcasts kind of shave things down. Like, we even shave a lot of things down here on the channel in terms of detail to just fit time constraints. But with a book, there is no time constraint. It really is just at your own pace. So there's a lot of additional details and information that can be thrown into a book that you won't really get even on a podcast with the amount of information that it has. So usually when I'm going to bed, I'll read a book. And recently, this is going to sound really dumb, but this is the book I've been reading, like, on and off and chipping away at. It's the history of electromotive diesel engines here in the United States, and it talks about the evolution of diesel locomotives, pretty much in the U.S. specifically, but it's somewhat around the world as well, wherever that would apply. It's really interesting, because it actually, interestingly enough, at least in the earlier era of development for the diesel engines of locomotives, that actually was crossed over a great deal into the automotive world, actually. And a lot of the innovations and technological improvements that they made to the railroad diesel engines actually started to be applied to automotive diesel engines as well, which is a really interesting kind of a thing. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And I thank you so much for recommending that, though. That does sound interesting. But I always say a good book is good to listen to. And also, the books kind of get me, books after a while get me a little bit worn out, especially at night. It gets me sleepier, so it helps me to get to sleep. But beyond that, I do thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, to answer the question about India and Iran being friends, they're not formal allies, but they do have a very strong economic relationship. India has invested heavily in Chabahar port, which is in Iran, and they have a significant economic interest in that port. So there's a huge reason why there might be, at least economically, decent friends or at least neutral to one another. But it does appear that they are friendly to each other. So they are partners. But at the same time, though, they are heavily opposed. India's heavily opposed to Iran's nuclear program. So it's like it's complex, but they are friends technically.
It's complicated. Like dude, it's what someone puts on Facebook when they're having relationship issues. It's complicated. That's the relationship between Iran and India. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, Kenneth said, "I'm surprised that you don't work for the railroad." I'm telling you, folks, if YouTube ever falls through, which I don't think it ever will, I've actually told Matthew a couple of times, I'm like, I think I'd like to get out there with everyone, and work a crappy job on the railroad. Like getting called in and working 12-hour shifts, and then, you get done with one, and then you have like a break for 5 hours, and then they call you in for another 12-hour shift. I was like, I would love to do that. They actually get paid pretty good, and their retirement's pretty good. Their jobs are very, very demanding and challenging at times, but they also pay pretty decently, and the retirement plans their retirement payouts and pensions and stuff are actually pretty damn good compared to what you'll see out there in the rest of American industries these days. So I would consider that. Like, that's not like my first go-to job, to be entirely honest, because I don't know if I'm made for railroading stuff. But hell, when you drive by the rail yards, like Matthew can say, literally anyone and everyone is working there. Like, there's like literally anyone from any walk of life looks to be working on the railroad. So it's not out of the question to say that I possibly could as well. And I see a lot of people advertising their railroad. Someone's like, go to Union Pacific. I've heard that the one company you don't want to go to is BNSF. Like, that's what I've heard. Like, their safety ratings are literally world class. Like, they are the safest railroad on Earth, apparently. But that also becomes this whole weird work culture thing where you get bonuses if you don't report injuries, which is something that I've heard from people who work there. They're like, yeah, that's kind of a thing that happens here. And apparently Norfolk Southern just brought in Big Brother from 1984, because now they're saying that the cameras inside of the locomotives, they can literally pull the footage from at any given moment, which actually shows exactly what you're doing in the cab at all times. And there doesn't even have to be an accident or an accident investigation to do that. They can just pull the tapes whenever they want and look at what you're doing. So I was like, huh. It's like, well, Norfolk Southern's Norfolk Southern man is out there practicing the Chinese police state inside of the locomotive cabs, and BNSF is out here trying to fudge the safety reports into an extent. But beyond that, I hope that does address that well. But of course, everyone always knows that CSX is the best, because the Louisville and Nashville is a part of the CSX brand. And I like the Louisville and Nashville. It's a pretty cool railroad. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Buzz Blades, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Buzz, for that $10 support. He said, thanks for all the hard work delivering the news to the LSA Army, and take one from the chat.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And I want this channel to keep on running, and thank you for enjoying it. And we will make sure to get one from the chat. We will. And so what do we got, Matthew? What do we got?
And this one is going to go to Buzz Blades. Guess who? It's Buzz Blades. He got the question, too. He said, some talk about Xi losing grip on power, and is there any truth to it?
It appears that there's currently a little schism that's happening in between him and the PLA. So in that kind of an extent, he's actually losing solidified power in a way, or at least the loyalty of all of the branches of the Chinese Communist Party, which includes the PLA. So in a sense, yes, that actually is happening. So I hope that does address that live chat well. And thank you once again for supporting and sponsoring a live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I asked an interesting question. What job would you choose if you had to take one in this poll? 40% said trucker, 32% said railroad worker, 22% said airport worker, and a measly 6%, the most unpopular option there was, at 5% now, is an Amazon worker. So nobody wants to work for Amazon. They would rather work on the railroad in the hot heat, or they'd work at the airport with the rude passengers from time to time, or 40% would take trucker. Honestly, between all those options, I would definitely be a trucker out of all those options, without a doubt. But Enforcer, what say you?
Crazy enough, truckers get paid less than railroaders, so I would just be a railroader for the reasons of pay. Like in between the two, we were just talking about, like, you know, economically what would make more money. I would say being a railroader would be a better pick. Because if y'all don't know, folks, railroad engineers, at least by the advertised ticket salaries that the railroads publish, most engineers that have been engineers for 3 years on the railroad are actually making as much as domestic commercial pilots. They're making about $120,000 a year, although that can vary from state to state. And I think the lowest that some of them are paid at 3 years is close to $100,000. But that's like places here in Alabama. But beyond that, they actually get paid pretty damn well. And so that's something that's pretty impressive on that. And on top of that, to become a railroad engineer, well, you have to become a conductor, and then you get bumped up to being an engineer. But becoming an engineer is actually a lot easier than becoming a commercial airline pilot, because becoming a commercial airline pilot, unless if you go into the military, the Air Force, and become a pilot, or the Navy and become a pilot, you have to pay for flight school. Railroads don't make you pay to go to engineer training. You actually get your training provided to you for free by the railroad, and once you're certified as an engineer, you are certified, you know, of course, like an airline pilot, as an engineer forever, and your training was paid for, which that is just economically a huge thing, because a lot of the pilots these days are pretty much constantly paying off their debt that they have from going to flight school. Engineers don't have that kind of a problem. They're just making straight cash, and they never had to pay for their training ever. So pretty cool thing with that. And also, oh, goodness, man. Someone said engineering is drafting. Either you do or do not understand physics. You know, like a railroad engineer is the guy who, like, runs the train. He's not called a driver. Like, we can pull that up, dude. Like a railroad engineer. The train driver, also a railroad engineer or a locomotive engineer, operates trains. He's the one who drives the train. So, no, an engineer isn't a guy who works in your car or drafts 3D models. An engineer is also a guy who runs trains. That's like in the job description. And so with that, hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Pkaistani, once again, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Pkaistani, for that second support. It said, Bobcat operators in Russia be like, I got 99 problems, but a ditch ain't one. and Putin digging holes when Victor Day comes. And he got 99 problems, but a ditch ain't one. And hit me. And sorry, not sorry.
And I thank you for the support, and that was a pretty good joke. I gotta appreciate you for those jokes. That was a good one. And I gotta thank you so much once again, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so a huge thanks to you, greatly, once again. And with that, we're about to be moving on to the next one. And also, I just saw someone say something. I gotta bring this up, folks, because maybe there's a couple of people who know. I want to run this by y'all to get an opinion. Lowell Pearson said, "Run 8, baby." Okay, Lowell, I gotta ask you this then, since I'm on the stream here. Let me show you this, Matthew. I'm not plugging this game, like, we're not sponsored by them, but I want to show it because it's something I've been looking at. This is the most in-depth railroad simulator that exists in the world, Matthew. It's Run 8. And crazily enough, Matthew, they actually have the Norfolk Southern District, or Southern Division, which includes the Irondale Yard in it. So I was like, that's pretty neat. Like, let me see if I can actually show that to you. Yeah, there it is, dude. Like, you recognize that. There's the main line right there that heads over to Atlanta, and then there's the Norfolk Southern Norris Yard right up there.
Yeah, it looks slightly realistic.
Yeah, it looks fairly realistic for what it is. It's not impressive in graphics at all. But considering that Lowell Pearson brought it up, is Run 8, to anyone who plays Run 8, is it actually worth it? Because I haven't ever pulled the trigger on actually getting it, and I keep on thinking, I'm like, you know, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should. I've heard it has a bit of a learning curve to it. I actually don't know. Let's see. Home. How much is the actual game itself? So, let's see here. How much is it? Does it say? Oh, $50. So it's actually pretty in depth for $50, man. Like Train Sim World is about $60, I think. Actually, I think it's like $49.99. So it's exactly the same price as this. But Train Sim World's pretty basic. It's pretty much just like drive from point A to point B most of the time. This has literally every single facet of the railroad involved in every single part of the route. So that's actually
that was the weirdest purchase page I've ever seen in my life. That was like sort of like a little off-putting looking the way
honestly,
that was set up.
That's why I'm like kind of like, should I pull the trigger on this game? You know, it's like, is it good? And I see a lot of people saying that it's actually really good. Let's see. So hang on, folks. I'm trying to see. Let's see. Someone said Railroad Life sucks. It's a mixed bag. Everyone says everything sucks, and then some people say it was great. I guess it kind of just depends on the person if you like it or not. Because I've heard from everyone everywhere at least once that their job sucks, and then some people say the job's great. So, and also a lot of people are saying that it's apparently pretty fun. So. That would be interesting. Maybe I'll get it. It's just honestly though, man, like that pay page, like the buy page, is the part that keeps on making me go, oh, should I? I don't know, you know, because it's like this website looks pretty old, man. This website looks like it was made in the early 2000s. But I have seen people playing it, so it actually is a thing that you can use. Like you can buy it and use it. And a lot of people apparently are playing it. It's just more of a niche thing because it isn't on Steam. And they have their own website for it and everything. But still pretty neat.
How come they won't put it on Steam?
I don't know. I don't know the reason behind that, but I have seen actually there's a decent amount of YouTubers that actually do play this game. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, apparently it actually is a game that you can play. So maybe I'll get it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But anyways. With that, I hope that covers that base, because I saw that someone brought it up in the chat, and I was like, you know, maybe it's worth it or not. I see a lot of people saying that it is good, so maybe I'll get it. But for now, I'm stuck on Railroader because Railroader is great and it's on Steam, and it's transitional era, so it's the era between Diesel and Steam, so you get the best of both worlds. And so with that,
Railroader, you gotta love that game. Railroader, just railroading right off the road, like they've never been there before, right in the ditch.
Railroader, they said the railroads have never been run better, and I'm gonna make the railroads safer by ensuring that there is absolutely no freight to haul on them. No engineers will be out there, like they will not be running trains. But anyways, with that, also, I mean, have you seen Railroader, Matthew? Have I shown it to you?
Yes, I've already seen it.
Okay. We'll save the time then. I'm sure we got a lot more super chats left. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Adam McLean, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Adam, as well, for that $10 support. He said, because LSA is critical infrastructure.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, and thank you for saying that the LSA is critical infrastructure. I'd like to believe it is, and I hope that it is, really, because that would be nice to know. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Oil Slick, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Mr. Oil Slick. He said, do you think officially we are now watching World War III, since there seems to be fighting on all corners of the world?
I would say not really yet. I would say that there is wars around the world, but I wouldn't say that it's a world war, because a world war means that there's one side against the other fighting across every area of the world. Right now, it's more so multiple different sides fighting multiple different wars in multiple different areas of the world, and so it really isn't a world war per se yet, because there's not an allied and axis group in the world yet. It's really just more so India versus Pakistan, Israel versus Iran, Russia versus Ukraine, China versus Taiwan, that sort of a deal, and it's not really a unified front made by them all to try and achieve some sort of a thing against a whole other group of people. And so with that, I would say it's getting close, but not really yet, at least in my opinion. But, you know, if you go over to that one guy, though, he'll be telling you the nuclear bombers are flying and everyone's about to die, and, you know, it is World War and everything. But here, I like to be a little bit more realistic, at least in my opinion, and say that it's getting there, but it's not there yet. And so with that, huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 from AMP Rider. And thank you, AMP, for that $10 support. They said, long-time watcher, but first-time chatting, and appreciate being able to get these updates and see the raw information for myself. And keep up the great work, guys, and LSA.
Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for enjoying the work here that we do. It means a lot to us that folks do enjoy it. And I gotta say, great to hear that you're chatting for the first time. Thank you for joining us here, one of the American Lackers. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And we got a 10 once more from Adam McLean. And Adam said, the Disney cult has nothing on the LSA.
Hey, honestly, these days I feel like the Disney cult is shrinking. But then you have the Disney adults, which are an interesting group. But hey, I like to know that we have LSA adults because statistically our audience is well within their 40s and 60s. And I like to think that it's a matured and well-informed and knowledgeable audience. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Tower King, who puts in a 5. And big shout out to Tower King for that $5 support. They said the intro is epic.
Hey, and thank you so much for support, and thank you for enjoying the intro. It is pretty good. It's great, and I got to thank you so much for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to, let's see, this one goes to Drew, who puts in a £10 donation. And thank you very much, Drew, for that £10 support. We appreciate it as well. Drew said, I was in prison half my life, around 16 years, and gang business all my life. And Russia, gang-funded country, little tip to everyone, Russian propaganda, and all. My life's not fair, etc. I love your channel and Scotland. Hey! And also, by the way, like that reminds me, there's a fella that is from England that goes around giving interviews now, and he was a gangster, but he doesn't like to be called a gangster. He's not a gangster. He's a businessman, and my business is crime. It kind of gives me the same thing. Like no offense, but for some reason the gangsters in like the UK and that area do not hit the same as the gangsters of the Italian mobs, the Italian American mobs here in the United States. It just doesn't hit the same. It's just not the same thing. And also the other street gangs in America, in my opinion, just a lot more brutal or like straightforward than the UK gangs. It's just a lot more brutal, at least in my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way about that, but to me it seems like it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you for the support, Drew. I would largely have to agree with Matthew, although I'd have to say getting stabbed anywhere in the world would probably be a pretty crazy experience and a dangerous one at that. So like with that in mind, I would say that the most scary organized crime kind of groups that I think ever really existed would be the Italian mafia, both in America and in Italy, because it was really even scarier in Italy than it was in America. Because in America, I don't know if you know this, Matthew, but in America, the mafia actually outlawed the use, outlawed in their, mafias, the use of car bombs. They didn't do that in Italy. So in Italy, the mafia could car bomb you.
Oh yeah. The mafia back in Italy, which is the real roots of the mob, the Italian American mobs that formed in New York and the New England area, those are much different than the Italian, like the real Italian mobs. Like the Italian mobsters in Italy make the ones in America look like a child's play, and even the Italian mobsters will say that in America. They'll say, "Oh yeah, the old country, what they call it back in Italy, much more severe." Like the Black Hand Group is one of them. They do horrific things to people back in Italy. Like I think even the American mob is kind of like a little bit leery of them.
Yeah, from what I've heard, apparently they are. But the two most dangerous or really scary kind of organized crime groups or gangs, in my opinion, that ever really existed here in America would definitely be the Italian mobs and the Irish mobs. Those seem to be the most dangerous to me. I mean, like Whitey Bulger is just a scary, boogeyman kind of a guy. And he was like an FBI informant the whole time too, but he was a scary kind of a guy. But really the one that's more scary to me because of how organized and methodical they were was the Italian mob, because they really ran the whole thing like a business. And so it wasn't just, sporadic violence for the hell of violence. It was really more so organized precision violence to further the idea of making money. And it's like that's just a really kind of a scary concept because it isn't something that you can avoid. I mean, if it comes into your neighborhood, you pretty much have to either give in or get shot. And it's like, so what will your choice be? Or possibly be run out of business and have your place burned to the ground, which could also be another option as well. That kind of stuff is pretty scary. From what I remember of the stories that I've heard from the guy who, goes around doing the interviews, and he's like, I wasn't a criminal, I'm a businessman, and my business is crime. I remember that he would say something along the lines of they would go around, I forgot what they actually would deal in, but what he would do is that he would carry a shotgun filled with rock salt, and he'd shoot people with it, like on their leg or something, because it blasts away their skin, and the rock salt would burn the exposed flesh, but it wouldn't really leave anything behind that would leave a trace to say who did it, so that way he could just keep getting away with doing stuff like that. And it's like, here in America, they wouldn't give a damn, they just shoot you, but over there, he kind of cared about being caught, and I was like, that seems to be more so of an lenient approach, honestly, from the organized criminals that are conducting this sort of a thing, which makes it seem a little less scary because they're deliberately being more reserved and careful about it. But here in America, even with the most organized groups like the Italian mafia, they still would just go and murder people, which was death is always more scary than just getting maimed. But with that,
They wouldn't just murder people though. Like the Italian American mobs would go. They would eliminate people within their organization. Like that was something that happened. But they wouldn't go around to like average civilians and start knocking people off at random. If they were going around trying to get some protection money from some business around the corner or something like that, they would simply go around there and threaten them. They might, occasionally beat them up or rough them up to get the money, but they wouldn't actually just go around the corner and kill those people like the movies portray. They wouldn't really do that.
well, I mean, like I think they well, I mean, hell, like Al Capone went around bombing speakeasies, like and killed hundreds of people doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he might have done it from time to time, but the movies were trying to make it seem like they're going around like getting protection money from people. And if they like said anything, they would just go to just like butcher the whole family or something. It's like, nah. They did that, but not like the movies were portraying. It wasn't like a super common thing.
Oh no, it wasn't a common thing because then they would have had everyone coming down on them from up above. They have to keep it a little bit more low key, and violence isn't good for business. But beyond that, though, they would go around and axe people sometimes. It wasn't often, but still, that's a pretty scary thing. That if you went against them enough, and as a person in the situation, who knows where enough is? When you cross the line, you could just end up getting killed. And that's like a legitimate fear. In Britain, it didn't really seem like it was a legitimate fear with those gangs. They could kill you, but it seems as though they would more so just beat you up and maim you a good bit more before they actually ended up killing you. At least from what I see. But beyond that, gangs are scary anywhere. I think everyone can agree on that one. They're like trying to stratify what kind of organized crime gang isn't scary or is. Like, honestly, it might be an exercise in futility. Honestly, all of them might be, pretty scary, actually. But still, I do thank you for support, Drew, and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for enjoying our channel all the way up from Scotland, as we had an organized conversation about organized crime. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Adam McLean once again, who puts in another 10. And thank you very much, Adam McLean, for that support. He said, Russia is a country full of drunken people.
Actually, for the large part, yeah, historically, they actually have a major problem with alcoholism, and a lot of people die from drinking themselves to death in Russia every year. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Robert Johnson, and thank you, Robert, as well. He said, Slava Ukraine.
And Ram Slava. And thank you so much for the support, Robert Johnson, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we got a 5 from Cody Fritz. And Cody says, Indiana bot here, Slava LSA. And have you guys ever had Indian or Pakistani food, and which do you prefer? And neither. I don't really care for either one of them, to be honest with you. The food is not of my palate, I guess you could say. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd actually have to agree with Matthew on that one. I have had Indian food before. I actually don't think I've had any Pakistani food, but I have had Indian food before, and it's not really for my palate. It's just not the right kind of flavors. And I know some people are about to be like, oh, yeah, like I can already hear it. Oh, white people can't handle spice. We eat plenty of spicy stuff. I eat like Pepper X on stuff pretty often. I'm a big fan of spice, but I just don't really like the blends of spices that you find in Indian food. It's just like, it's just not really great. Chicken tikka masala, I like that, but that's more of a British thing, actually. Chicken tikka masala is actually a British creation, not an Indian one. But traditional Indian food, I've never really had it and been like, damn, that's good. Now, on the other hand, I've had traditional Mexican food, like actual traditional Mexican food, and traditional Mexican food every time I'm like, damn, that is just good. That is some of the best. And also I've had traditional, let's see, Japanese food. That's very good. Traditional Chinese food's a hit and a miss. Like, it really depends on the dish. And then let's see, what else have I had? Traditional Mediterranean food is really good. Like Greek food or Italian food, of course, incredibly good. French food's pretty all right. British food's great. Like British food. It's very, like, it's not spicy, but it is very good food all the time. But that would be my take. Not really the biggest thing for me. The spices and the mix of it, just not great. Like, in my opinion, it just doesn't really agree with me too much. And so with that, hope that does address that so well. And also, we are asked our opinion, Matthew. I love this about the internet. We're asked our opinion about foods. And I'm like, that's not really my favorite. So immediately, someone immediately goes to saying that it's racist to not like Indian food. Like, I don't like it. It doesn't taste good to me. It has nothing to do with
Racist.
Yeah, like, so apparently having preferences. So I guess if someone doesn't like chicken tenders, they're racist against white people, right? Like, is that where we're going with that at this point? That's just ridiculous. Like, I don't like the food. Like, that's just what it comes down to. That's what it is. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Thomas D. Orazio, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Thomas, for that $5 support. He said, who sides with whom in the Pakistan-India conflagration among Russia, China, USA, and Iran, and who they line up with?
And can you reread that one again really quick?
Who sides with whom in Pakistan and India conflagration among Russia, China, USA, and Iran, and who they line up with?
So Iran is most likely going to peace out. China would support Pakistan. America would support India. I actually don't know who Russia would support. I feel like they're going to largely remain neutral as well. And that would pretty much be the lay of the land. So really the only major supporters of both sides would be China for Pakistan and the United States for India, at least in my opinion at this point. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a 5. And Jack says, Putin can't get the whole enchilada, so he wants the whole empanada from Maduro.
That's actually a pretty good one. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it rolling. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from John Person. And John says, can we please get some Australian news, please?
And I wish we could, but we just don't have a lot of major breaking world news coming out of Australia most of the time, unfortunately. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Old Texas, who puts in a 5. And thank you, Old Texas, as well for that support. He said, any idea how China, Iran, or Russia will react going forward if the India-Pakistan war evolves into a full-scale, long-term conflict?
I really don't know how anyone's going to react. I'll be honest, a lot of the reactions are really muted from everyone. China really doesn't have a reaction. We really don't. I really actually feel like no one really wants to have a dog in that game, and they just kind of want to sit back and watch it go. But if they have to support sides, China will support Pakistan and America will support India. But that probably will only happen if it looks like America or China is starting to lean in to support one side or the other, then the other will hop in to support the opposite side. So there's a push to the pull. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Oil Slick once again for putting in a 5, and also Mark Andre Burnett for putting in a 4, and also Merc015837 for putting in a $1 donation. And thank you very much, Oil Slick, Mark, and Merc for that support. And we appreciate it very much. And thank you for helping keep the channel running. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much to all of y'all for the support and helping this channel keep on running. Because if it wasn't for each and every one of y'all that didn't throw in a comment, we wouldn't have been able to make this channel possible and keep it rolling tonight. And so a huge thanks to y'all so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Right Saloom, who puts in a 3 and says coffee made of snow.
They have to have their coffee made of snow, so that way they can sit there and eat the birds, which have all been eaten, except for these, which will be eaten on Tuesday. But I do thank you greatly for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But if it wasn't for your direct support from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. And so a massive thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ryan H., who puts in a 5. And thank you, Ryan, for the support. He said, hello, Enforcers, and take a look at the Halden prison in Norway. It's one of the most luxurious prisons in the world, and LSA.
Halden prison. And thank you for the support. We will take a look. Oh, it's this prison. It's this one. Where is it? It's near Halden. They put it near the Swedish border. Like they put it near Sweden. But let's take a look at the Halden prison. Oh, it looks kind of like a college dorm. Wow, nice.
Looks luxurious. Looks nicer than the high school I went to high school at.
Man, this guy.
Oh wow, look, that is nicer than a dorm room. Honestly, like they had these people living nicer than college kids that pay $40,000 a year for college.
Man, that's crazy. And they're in prison here. That's the craziest part about it. Honestly, that's actually pretty impressive for a prison. Here in America, we have something like Julia Tutwiler. But, that's another story for another time. But I do thank you for support and letting us look at this little Halden prison, because that's quite an interesting one right there. But still, huge thanks to you once again. Hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And it is now time to jump into our live chat questions proper. We are now fresh out of Super Chats. And thank you all once again for supporting the channel yet again and helping to keep it running through that Super Chat support. And we are now going to jump into our Morse code decoders of the night. We have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J., Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Her Royal Fluffiness, Airball Garbo, Johnny Dog, and Nor Pritchett. They said the Morse code says pretty much all of Eastern Europe and most of Asia is going through it right now. LLT LSA.
And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. And I got to congratulate y'all greatly for getting that correct time and time again, because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to hear the Morse code message every single night. And so, of course, a big shout out to the Lee Spring Army Signal Corps. And with that, we're going to be moving on into the live chats. But due to time constraints tonight, and also due to the fact that I am greatly fatigued from running yesterday's stream still, actually, we are going to be addressing 3 live chat questions due to time concerns, and then rounding this thing on out. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Holy Smokes, who says, I wonder if any of the shoot downs were friendly fire between India and Pakistan.
From what we were able to hear, it doesn't appear that either side are stating that. It appears that Pakistan is saying that they shot them down, and it appears that India is saying that Pakistan shot them down, at least from what we're hearing right now. So, it appears that none of them were shot down by friendly fire, at least at this moment. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this question goes to Andrew Phillips, who says, who do you think deserves sanctions, Pakistan, India, or both of them?
I would say that if you were to sanction anyone on just the premise of principle, I'd say that Pakistan most likely is the one that deserves sanctions without a doubt. But when you also add into the idea that India is now going to try and create a state-structured genocide by cutting off water to about 200 million people and, make them die of thirst, I would say that, honestly, I think sanctions should be applied equally at this point as punishment for both of them going absolutely nuts. But honestly, there's really no way to run anything. You just end up punishing them both and nothing is achieved. So you'd have to punish one side or the other or threaten punishment. And if we had to pick one side, I would pick Pakistan. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so who's the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is AF Kaplan, who says, has there been any effort on the part of the United States government to intervene in the India and Pakistan conflict?
Not really. We've been making phone calls, just asking for everyone to get along, but that doesn't really go anywhere in the modern world or really anywhere in any point in history. So beyond us just making calls to ask them to be nice to each other and play nice, we haven't really seen a lot of action by the U.S. government that would actually attempt to force a stop to the conflict by backing one side or the other or attempting to condemn them both. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching tonight. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to run this stream for each and every one of y'all, and I got to give a massive shout out to the 13.1 thousand live viewers that we had here at the peak tonight, and also the 114,000 people who have watched this stream before it ended. We are of course entirely honored and greatly appreciative to have had each and every single one of y'all here, and we hope that y'all enjoyed the stream tonight. If y'all did, make sure to subscribe. We run this stream each and every single day at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 days a week except for Mondays, covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world. And of course, you can all expect us to be here tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world. And also, if there is enough news, y'all can expect Enforcer Matt to be the one giving y'all the short war summary in the short war news video tomorrow. And so with that, a massive thanks to you all once again for watching. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, Haram Slava, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, thank you all for watching, and a huge shout out to all 114,000 people that joined us by the end of the stream. And with that, folks, we will see you all tomorrow midday for that short war video if there is enough news, and also at 10 p.m. Eastern for the news at night on the stream, of course. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, get some rest, and good night.